Hey, everybody. I don't think anybody's in here, but that's quite all right. I'm going to start with a little bit of music while I set this ish up. Let's do this. Let's do this. Come on. Let's go. Let's do, sure. Why not?
Hey. Yes, Dana Patrice, step into the space. Black fairy ting, sprinkle truth on the place. We deconstruct vibes, make the old ways shake. Liberating minds, no, you come fake. Tap, 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 blow the likes up the chart. Tap, 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 show the love from the heart. Tap, 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 if you're vibing, don't stop. Tap, 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 run it up. Tap, 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 love it up, run it up. Tap, 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 love it up, run it up. Tap, 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 love it up, run it up. Tap, 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 run it up. Tap that screen, let's go. Fairy dust flow, watch it grow. Dana Patrice, say my name. Black fairy things up and stuck, no shade. Tap, 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 all night, don't stop. Tap, 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 run the numbers to the top. Tap, 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 all night, don't stop. Tap, 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 run it up.
Okay, so I think I have everything set up anyways. Let me pull up. So today we're going to be going over this video. It's a blind commentary. I have not watched this, okay? It's a little under an hour, but we're going to do commentary. I always find it interesting, these conversations. So we shall continue. I'm just going to see, I have to just make sure of one thing, because I'm pretty sure. I just want to make sure that the audio works while I'm in this format. Hold on a second. Let's see if this did not steer me wrong. I do see one person in here. If you hear it, let me know. Okay, hold on a second. I'm just going to double check on my other device to make sure that that could be heard. Or if you guys can let me know in the comments. I see that there's 3 people here. Say what's up. Remember to like the video, share the video, comment, subscribe if you already haven't, although you can't comment if you're not a subscriber. And let's get into it. So 1 second. Hello, happy Wednesday, High Frequency Seeker. How are you? I hope all is well with you. I just want to make sure that we can hear the video when I play it like this. This is my first time doing this on StreamYard. I've done it before, but I was using the other platform, Restream. One second. First time doing this on StreamYard. I've done it before, but I was using. So I just pulled it back, but it sounds kind of low. I'm going to play again. Let me know if you can hear the audio of the video. Can you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? I just played a little bit of the introduction to the video. Can you guys hear it clearly? Give you a few moments. Just want to make sure it can be heard. No, you didn't hear anything. Okay, hold on. What about with me muted? Did you hear? Because I don't see, you know what? It should. This is going to be annoying. I could already tell. Maybe I should have done it on Restream, but I'll just figure it out. It's fine. Oh, wait. So I do have to add it to the stage. Let me know if you heard when I was muted. Damn, and I tried to see, I wanted to check in the backstage, but I couldn't check the same. Let me see something here. Let me see if I can, what if I make myself full screen? And then I play. 1 second, let's see if this works.
But it's those encounters I had with God that changed my life.
I was more anti-Christian than anything.
People claiming they're Christians, and yet they're supporting mass starvation. They're supporting kidnappings of people off the street. They're loudly in the face of you.
Did you hear that? I know you can't see the video, but if you can hear it, that's all that matters, because I don't want to get a copyright strike, which happened to me another time. So what I was told to do is to just play the audio. So it seems like I can add it to the stage and I can be on screen, which I don't mind. I'll even come on camera. I don't mind. Okay, you heard that. Okay, so it does have to be added. I just can't see. I guess I just can't have both, which is fine. Hold on, let me see if I can. I just want to try one more thing because it didn't work. It's hard to tell, like, when you're not actually live, unfortunately. But you know what? Because you know what? It's fine. Let's just do it this way. I'm not going to waste any more time. There's 4 people in here. Hey, beautiful. And we'll just listen to it like this. You can just see my reaction. We're going to listen together and go from there. Because it seems like, yeah, hold on. So this is the video, right? But if I play it like this, and it shows the video, I could get a copyright strike. However, using the audio should keep me safe from that. Hey, True Reality. Okay, so you guys can't hear. Awesome. All right, so I guess I'll just have to be me on stage. I'll just have to like make myself big screen to cover it, but still play it. I guess that's what I have to do, and I'll figure out how to resolve that later. I mean, I guess it's not different than looking at a picture of like a icon that I made, but you know, I was trying to be all like, you know, professional. So we're going to get into it. Let's start. And I will be stopping and pausing during the video to make commentary, obviously. But this is just the intro. So let's get into it.
But it's those encounters I had with God that changed my life.
I was more anti-Christian than anything.
People claiming they're Christians, and yet they're supporting mass starvation. They're supporting kidnappings of people off the street. They're loudly in the face of you saying this is the name of God.
Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm the host, Ryan. On this side, we have former Christians. And on this side, we have Christians.
So what I will do, I'm going to show you guys who they are. So hold on, let me just minimize myself for a real quick second. So these are the former Christians and these are the Christians, right? Maybe I'll even let you see because I don't have to play a lot of it, right? But
Christians. The first statement, my life got better after joining Christianity. We'll start by having the agreeing side come up now.
It definitely isn't like an instant like transformation. It definitely, like, we as Christians, we call it
So yeah, I just wanted you guys to be able to see. Happy Wednesday. Thank you. Yes. Thank you guys for being here. You know, I know it's an afternoon. I don't know why it won't keep me as the bigger one, because I prefer this, to be honest. I don't know why it won't keep me as the bigger one, but it's okay. So as you can see, these two, so there, it looks like there are 2 believers and 3 non-believers. You heard the first question, so we're gonna listen to that. I'm gonna make myself big screen again so that I don't get copyright strike, but I thought, you know, maybe you'd like to see who's speaking.
sanctification, and it takes time. As Jesus says in the Gospels, like, to be Christian, it isn't necessarily easy. It got easier in some regards. You know, I have my comfort, Jesus Christ, I have a peace. But at the same time, I think the main way it got better is it just became a lot less self-centered and a lot more beneficial to the people around me.
Yeah, so my life did not instantaneously get better, and I definitely had times where I was falling back into the ways that I did not want to be in. What I would consider sin, the things of this world that I didn't think were good. I think that the reason why I feel like my life got better is because I had a deeper sense of purpose in my life. And I think purpose was truly what made me feel a lot more fulfilled, instead of me feeling like life is just all about me by myself. So I like what you said, is I live more self-centered. And when I became a Christian, I decided to live with more purpose.
Okay.
Does that not just sound like regular growth as a person? Like, you don't have to be Christian to just, like, you know, I think we all go through that. Like, I feel like my daughter, who is like 14, is self-centered. I think all teenagers are self-centered. And as you grow and you evolve and you start to get in the world as an adult, you hopefully become less self-centered, more cognizant of the people around you, more community thinking wise, instead of being so self-centered. But the other thing is like, oh, I still slip back into my old ways. Like, where's the Holy Spirit? Even in the Bible, I think it's in like Galatians. Is it Galatians? Or it might be John, where it says that once you have the fruit of the Spirit, like, you're not supposed to be able to sin anymore. That's like another church lie that they tell you. But according to the biblical, like, in doctrine, according to, and I do think it's like 1 John 3 verse like 10 or something like that, you are not supposed to be able to sin again. And if you do, it says you're a child of the devil. Okay, you're a child of the devil. Okay, or the way that the person who gave me that verse, the devil. Okay, you're a child of the devil. Okay, so I don't know. It's just like a lot of these times, what people attribute to Jesus Christ, I like, it just sounds like you just grew, like we all do. Like, me being a Christian doesn't stop me from, like, not being a Christian doesn't stop me from being a good person and not being self-centered. Like, I find that Christians are some of the most self-centered people I've ever come across. So that's why I was kind of like smirking and laughing, listening to him, like, okay, buddy, sure there. I think it makes them more self-centered, but let's continue.
Okay. Cool. I think now's a good time to bring up the disagreeing side.
Oh, are we into commercial?
If you got 1 to
I just want to mute. Can I mute it from here? Because I don't want the commercial to play and get flagged for that. Right? It does seem very common. Let me just actually mute it for the commercial. But yeah, you're right. It does seem super common that it would generally, like, you know, you would grow as a person. But okay, so this commercial wasn't even that long. Great. Let's go to skip and go into it. I don't get that. Like, you're struggling before, and even now you're still struggling. So what did Become Christian do? I thought it was supposed to be easier. I thought that there was supposed to be this grand change in you, right? Like, that's what they're telling you, right? You know, I know, like, you know, we have the gospel. We fall down, but we get up. But a saint is just a sinner who fell down and got up. But like I said, like, that's not according to doctrine. Like, once you have the fruit of the Spirit, once you have the Holy Spirit, you are supposed to sin no more. You shouldn't even want to sin. There should be this strength that abides in you from the Holy Spirit that stops you in your tracks, right? And I always hear Christians like and it just kind of goes into like the whole trap in indoctrination, and why I think a lot of like Christians are really and truly so angry and like mad sometimes, especially when you point out these things. True Reality said, Jesus is like the average woman. I don't know how he became the standard. That is hilarious, but also very true. Also very true. And I'm just going to pull it out because I don't know why this guy didn't show up when he first came. But like, because when he called like this third guy is the one that's talking about like, oh, I still fall back and whatever. He came with the people who didn't believe. So I guess he is on the side of the Christians. He just maybe didn't hear and understand, came late. It's okay, you know. It happens to the best of us. But yeah, let's get back into it. Hold on. I want you guys to see the former side too. Like I said, I will be stopping and playing just so you guys can see who's talking, because that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? So these two women here against three men. Oh my gosh, this is going to be interesting because you know the misogyny is going to seep right on through. This is going to be a conversation filled with misogyny. You know, three Christian men against two ex-Christian women. Oh my gosh. I feel for them already. Some of the most ignorant conversations are had with Christian men. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's continue. Oh my gosh. Poor them. The dismissing, the over talking them, I'm sure is abound. Are you guys hearing it? Because I think, hold on. Why is it saying it's muted? Okay. Did you guys hear that? I don't know. I just unmuted it from my side. Yeah, I didn't want to mute the screen audio. Hold on. Let me just pull it back. It's this girl speaking, McKenna. Just wanted to pull it back a little bit so that you guys could, just in case you didn't hear her, because it showed that it was muted in the backstage.
Right? Meaning like it didn't get better.
So I was raised Christian, so I know the scriptures, I know the stories. For me, though, when I got out into the real world, it just seemed like things weren't clicking for me spirituality-wise. Never really resonated with me, the stories, the Bible verses. It just wasn't the pathway that I needed to be a healthy adult, a happy adult. So that's why I would disagree with that statement.
I'm gonna say I grew up in a very Christian household and still have very Christian like family members and everything like that. And for me personally, like I feel like my life actually got better when I left Christianity, because especially as like a female, there is so much within the church that oppresses women from being able to like fully be themselves, fully, you know, be at the highest of ability that they can. And so like breaking down that construct and everything as a female opened up so many new opportunities and doors for me.
Is there any?
That is so true. And I find that coming from like a lot of women. Like they feel like more free. Like personally, I felt more free, right? Because there's not all these restrictions on like who I can be, what I can do, what my place was in the world, which under Christianity is like under a man, right? You're supposed to like, even there's verses in the Bible that says that, you know, women shouldn't even be speaking in church. They are not allowed to preach in a lot of church sectors, you know, which a lot of them are changing. But again, it goes against the doctrine. It goes against the teachings of the Bible. And it's just because they know as we become more like new age and, you know, feminism progresses and feministic views progresses, that they have to kind of like bring it back if they want to keep their church members up, right? Because the Bible says like, you know, all these things about women being silent, women being property, but we're out of that stage. Even though they want to take us back, we're out of that stage. So it's just very, I think I understand exactly what these two women are speaking of in regards to how they left and why that specific statement that he made doesn't resonate with them.
Like kind of personal thing that you clashed with during your time in the religion, that once you were, like you spoke on your opportunities, was there anything specifically that did you feel lighter? Was there something?
Oh, I felt significantly lighter. It was like an entire weight of like this systematic expectations on women that have been placed throughout like just thousands of years of religion based through Christianity. I felt like I was free to ask questions. I was free to pray to God or whatever God I felt that was needed. I felt free to be in tune with who I was as a female. Like I learned so much about my body. I learned about reproductive rights. Like there was just so much information that is so shielded from girls in the church. And like I remember one specific example for me personally that really like as a young child like stood out to me was I was in a youth group, and I as a girl in 3rd grade was forced to stay inside and learn about my virtue while all the boys got to go outside and play kickball in the grass. And like as a young girl just sitting there already having that segregation of why am I different than boys at the same age and I'm supposed to be safe for the man, I was like, I started questioning, and then asking questions leads to no answers, and so you leave.
I would say
That's like, I resonate with that deeply. That was like one of the starting of like me leaving the church, was the significant difference in the treatment of girls versus boys. I remember when my friend got pregnant and the boy that got her pregnant was still able to participate in church functions, like playing the drums and doing all that, but she got kicked out of the choir. She got excommunicated. She had to wait till she had the baby, then get rebaptized before she could start doing church things. And I was just like, why is it so one-sided? Even when I went, because I spent 1 year at a Christian boarding school. It wasn't like far in another country. As some of you know, I am Canadian. It was like maybe a 3-hour drive from where I was, from where my mom and my stepdad were staying. And they had activities sometimes for the boys. Like the boys could go to the gym and play games and whatever, but the girls could not. Just like how she said, like we were meant to stay inside, but the boys got to do all these fun activities while we had to do like some sort of Bible study, Bible service versus stuff like that. It's completely unfair. And I remember thinking like, this doesn't feel like something an all-loving God would do. It was definitely the start of me really questioning religion. But at the time, I still felt like it was just a misrepresentation of the God that I was talking about. Like, that was when I felt like, oh, you know, God's not like this. God is all loving. Jesus is all loving. He would never treat women like this. Surprise, surprise. He does and did. But you know what I mean? Just based on church doctrine of what I was taught of who God was and how this God, you know, loved us all equally, loved us all the same. But then there was all these rules that made us separate, made women less than, or more untrustworthy. I guess if we were allowed to go out and play with the boys, that it would be like a lustful spirit would come over them. I don't know. But it was always very weird for me. And that's when I too started like really questioning it. You know what I mean? Like, and really trying to be like, you know, I started to really rebel around this time against church, but I wasn't letting go of the idea of an all-loving God being real. I was just questioning, like, how could you tell me that God loves us all the same, but then there's all these different ways in which you treat me that you say the Bible upholds, right? So I just felt like it was men, and you'll hear this a lot. Oh, it's like especially from Christian women. Oh, men are like corrupting the doctrine. But when you actually read the doctrine, they're following it to a T, right? Which I only found out later. So I definitely resonate with her on that. I wonder if any of them have actually deconstructed, like by reading it and understanding these verses and these things that actually uphold these patriarchal views of, you know, men versus women and things like that. But I guess we'll find out. Let's get back to it.
I'll say, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's a terrible situation. That's not something that should be happening to any person, definitely, I mean, Christian or not. And I think that that's a very real thing that happens all through the church. I mean, I would say that all three of us probably agree, not to assume that we have the same thoughts, but like agree that those same things are still happening in the local church. And as Christians, we recognize that and we look down on that. I think Jesus would 1,000% look down on that.
See, that was me. That was me. Jesus would look down on this. He would never, ever, you know what I mean? And it just goes to show a lot of Christians don't read this book, right? I didn't read this book. I only started rereading this book recently. So it makes total, oh, hi, Power Kismic. I didn't see you up there. They always need a crutch. Absolutely. But yeah, like seriously, like exactly. I sounded like him. It's this guy. Like, I don't mind showing you. Let me just minimize so you can see. Is this guy that's saying, oh, you know, it's not the church. It's definitely men doing these things, and Christians would definitely stand against it. Wrong. but yeah, I the guy in the corner at the end that came kind of late, he didn't look like he was against it when he mentioned that. He looked down and he was like, oh, you know, I don't want to assume I'm speaking for you guys. He kind of scratched his head like, like, I don't know. I think he believes in that church doctrine that says women should be a place. He looks kind of incel-y. I'll show you him I'm sure he has something to say. So I'll show you guys him if he starts to talk. He's giving it incel-ish, you know what I mean? But let's continue.
Whether you believe it was real man or not, like any person, I think in my mind should look down on that. And so sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm glad that you're able to experience a lot more freedom in different ways, that you were able to understand more about life in the world that you didn't get from the church.
I'm going to kind of branch off of what you said about being a woman. You know, we're made in God's eyes, but everyone is very concrete that God is a man. And I'm like, well, obviously, like, we're not. And I know the story of like, oh, he's, you know, took Adam's rib and made Eve and stuff, but it's still, I don't know. I still go back to is God really a man? So it's just, I didn't like that you couldn't question it, that it had to be concrete. Like, no, God is a man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You know, even though we come from women, you know, we are all from our mothers. It was just, you know, that.
I mean, AI can now build.
It's a commercial. But what I'll say is this, like, definitely that whole, you know, God is a man, and we're made in his image. However, women are the one who give birth. There's this ongoing joke going on right now in the deconstruction community, in the deconstruction community on TikTok. One of the creators that I follow, and I've noted some of her stuff in my videos, Thinker or Arch Thinker here on YouTube. She talks about how, like, she thinks, like, she asks Christians, like, so did Adam have like genital parts, right? Because when he was first created, there was no need for him to have that, right? Because there was no woman there yet. And he hadn't, if you read the story, he hadn't, you know, had a mate yet. You know, God made him to till the land. And then he noticed that he was lonely. And then he made woman. Well, after seeing if there was any animals that would be able to connect with him. Kind of weird. I joke around and say that maybe that's why a lot of men have an obsession with bestiality. You know what I mean? Because God, according to the story, right, that y'all believe, he introduced you. He tried to see if you were a match with the animals first, and then he made woman. Okay, and that's biblical. Y'all, we could go through it one day, but that's biblical, right? He did that first, and then he put him to sleep, took the rib, and then he made woman. And then she asked, you know, maybe like God gave him a sex change, you know, because he at that point he would have needed the tools to procreate, you know, at least the ball sack, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's funny to me. It makes me laugh now when she kind of like made that thought, but it was funny. Didn't she said she read the Bible herself? Clearly he didn't read it enough to know what they all say. I read the Bible, and then when you bring up certain verses that contradict stuff, they're like, where does it say that? Where does it say that? And then you show them, and then in that same moment of not knowing where that verse is, they will surely tell you exactly what it meant. They never knew it was there, but they can tell you exactly what it meant now that you show them, right? They do that a lot. I wish men could see God as women. Oh my gosh. And this patriarchal construct, absolutely not. And even in the book I'm reading, When God Was a Woman, and that I have not finished. I definitely have to get back into that book because I was actually getting towards the chapters that I really wanted to read when I stopped reading it. But right now I'm kind of into my chemistry. I'm taking a chemistry class, and it's hard as hell. I don't know how much more I could put on my plate, especially with reading. Like, I'm constantly studying, constantly doing homework, constantly doing activities to help strengthen this chemistry into my brain. But back to what we were talking about. I find that, you know, according to I now I hear that and I laugh, because when she said that, I was just like, that's true. Like, he wasn't created with the intention of having a partner. So, you know, she often jokes around and said, like, you know, when Adam put her to sleep, you know, maybe he did give birth to, like, you know, he got a C-section, gave birth to Eve, right? Even though they said it just took a rib. And then he had to have like a sex change in order to make the procreation work at that time. It's funny. I don't know. I know it's like really weird, but I find it funny. Well, let's continue because this ad is over. Oh. Here we go.
Christianity is the only true religion. As always, we'll have the people that agree come up now. Amongst the many different...
So the men, the Christian men have come forward. This time, the one that I said looks kind of incel-y is sitting beside the host. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, so Christianity is the only true religion. This is going to be interesting because, I mean, there are religions that are way older, and I bet you that they have no idea. But let's see what they say. Let's give them a chance.
Different religions in the world. There has to be a reason why you guys believe Christianity is the only true one. Is anybody super fired up? Want to let people know why?
I feel like I can go.
Okay.
There's a little bit about me. I was an ex-atheist, a very avid atheist at that. I wasn't just like, I haven't really considered Christianity. I was really against it. I was more anti-Christian than anything. So I really was passionate about truth. I really was into things like cosmology, or even sometimes like theoretical physics or things like that. I was really invested into learning like what the truth is. And so naturally, when I came to Christ and I gave my life, it came with a lot of doubts, honestly, just because.
I don't think that people that think like this, like people that say they were atheists and then went to Christianity, I don't know if they were ever really atheist. And I say that in the sense like, okay, maybe in the sense, okay, no, let me say this. Maybe in the sense that like, okay, I don't believe in a God, but to say that like you explored science, evolution, things like that, and then read this book and believed, oh no, it must be that talking snakes existed and that someone ate an apple and that came back and that's what brought all the sin into the world. It's not like, how could you understand mitochondrial DNA, right? Which I have videos on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is some of the things that I discovered that I knew couldn't actually make sense. Like, science absolutely debunks the Bible. Like, we've outgrown the Bible. Like that, this is a Bronze Age idea, right? Like the Bible says rabbits chew cud. We know that that's not true, right? The Bible says that how spotted and striped animals came to be was by mating them in front of a stick. You know what I mean? The Bible says a lot of things that we just know aren't true. Even in the sense of just understanding photosynthesis, we know that the Bible's not true. Because according to, well, one of the chronological orders of creation, because chapter 1 has a different chronicle organization of how things came to be and when things were made, like on different days and things like that, than the second, chapter 2, which is the story of Adam and Eve. But I believe in neither of them, the sun was made after the plants, which we know can't be possible because plants cannot live without the sun. So if the sun came after plants, it just, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make, how could you read these things and then say like, yeah, this is for sure it, this is absolutely true. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he didn't believe in a God, but to say that you were looking for the truth and this is where it brought you, you didn't look very far. You know what I mean? And I'm willing to bet that despite his atheism, that he likely, because, if he grew up in North America, he likely, because North America is primarily Christian, he likely heard about Christ and was indoctrinated in other forms of ways, whether it even be like his parents believed, but maybe not him. You know what I mean? So all of our eyes and recorded history tells us the cosmos is a self-replicating embryo. God is both and all for most of history, i.e. androgyno or gyno-andro. The binary split is a recent delusion. That's true too. They always thought that, there's a lot of them that thought that there was a balance. There was also like a lot of more goddess worship, because you have to remember that when they thought about life, they didn't understand how women got pregnant back then. Not really. Right? Like a lot of them did not understand that perspective. Like I'm talking about even further back in those, they didn't understand. So when a woman received and they gave life, they were like, oh my gosh, this is, they thought God was a woman because women were able to procreate, right? And not just in the sense of human beings, but mass majority of even animals, it's the woman, the female version that is able to procreate and bring new life. So there was a lot of goddess worship as well. But yeah, I always think it's funny to hear them be like, yeah, my thing is truth, and this is where you ended up. Like you didn't look very far or very hard, is what I'm saying, because there's so much in the Bible that just does not make sense that science debunks. And I know people are like, oh, I don't believe in science, but like, yeah, you do. You use it every day. You use science every day when you use your phone, when you drive your car. All of this is science. Like you do believe in science to certain extents. You're just not willing to accept. And a lot of them are uneducated. They don't truly understand the science behind DNA, mitochondrial DNA. They don't understand these perspectives at all, right? So once you learn them, it's like, how can you agree to this book? But let's let him continue.
Because that's how I think. I had to like really dive into, okay, why do I believe like what I believe? Months of exploring, okay, why do I believe Christianity compared to Islam? Okay.
Months? That's not a long time, but okay. And Christianity, again, you're just comparing Abrahamic gods, like Christianity versus Islam. You're not really like looking for truth per se. You're looking for a religion for your explanation. At least that's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, why do I believe that Jesus existed? Why do I trust the Bible? But there always was an answer, and I know that God never condemned me for investigating my own faith. If anything, it's a blessing, because now, like, other people that have the same doubts, I can speak to them. And so, the reason I think that Christianity is the only true religion is just because that truth isn't subjective. There can only be one truth. If I come to believe that there's a God, okay, I have to know who this God is. If I come to believe in Jesus Christ, of course I have to, if he is.
Truth can absolutely be subjective because everybody's truth is different. What's true for me may not be true for you. There are objective truths, right? Like we all can, like an objective truth is like the sun comes up every day. That's an objective truth. Everywhere in the world, the sun comes up every day for everybody. A subjective truth is like, I like ice cream. You like ice cream. But the subjective truth is I prefer vanilla ice cream over chocolate ice cream. right? That's subjective. Not everybody, that's not just one truth. So even that, and honestly, I've seen, again, you guys know, I talk about it all the time. I listen to a lot of deconstruction lives, and I listen to a lot of these debates. And I did come across, like, I think, is it Justin Deconstruction that had one like, oh, there is no, like, God doesn't have an objective truth, and neither do you, saying to Christians, and I'm going to prove you why. And almost every Christian falls into the category of having subjective truth. Even with this Bible, there's 45,000 denominations. It's a subjective truth about what this Bible says, what it means, what to believe from it. You know what I mean? So this whole like objective truth, I swear they don't know what objective truth means. Parachismic says, yes, I agree with goddess worship as historically accurate given our relationship to the earth and the part of the earth. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just, to me, it made sense that like there would be a sense of goddess worship again, because the lack of understanding, you know, how things are created and the involvement of their semen. Like they didn't know back prior to even prior to the Bronze Age. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, oh my gosh, she's like, how did this happen? You know, by the Bronze Age, they kind of did know a little bit more about it, not as how we understand it now, but they kind of knew what happened when they got together. You know, that's why there's all these different rules. And even like when it comes to abortion, for example, like Christians will say they're against it. But if you look up bitter waters, there's an actual concoction that God gives to priests to bless. And they call it bitter waters, that husbands can give their wives to see if they've been cheating on them. Like if a jealous husband feels like their wife has been cheating on them, the idea would be that if she cheated on them, she was likely pregnant, and that this bitter waters, if it worked, it would like, they would pray, and then basically if like a woman, like basically it makes her uterus fall out, and if there was a fetus in that uterus, then they'd be like, oh, she's cheating, stone her. And then if like not, then she was in the clear, right? But it was like pretty much like they were giving them this poison, and it's funny how like they're like, oh, you know, God doesn't believe in abortion, but he created this bitter waters for men who thought that their women were cheating. Clearly, if that would be an abortion, that baby would not survive, right? But that's another topic for another day. But yeah, so I don't know, interesting how they navigate through whatever they believe this truth is.
Is the way and the truth of life, as he says. That's the end all be all, because there's only one truth, you know?
And amongst like all of your studying of all the different things, what are some things that popped out to you? Was it specific evidence or facts, or was it a feeling, or what was it that made you decide this was the one?
A lot of it was like philosophy, but also like history, like learning, okay, like what is actual proof that Jesus existed? And there's plenty.
Lies. There is no proof that Jesus existed. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's no way he did proper research. Imagine they had a girl like me on a show like this. Like, I would be obliterating them with actual facts. There are no actual facts. People will be like, oh, they have his whatever. They don't know. There's like no DNA test to prove that the blood on the rag is Jesus's, like, because they don't have a body for Jesus to test. Like, there's no like evidence that Jesus existed. Now, was there a man named Yahweh that could have existed? Maybe, but Jesus, a man named Jesus, there's absolutely nothing. There's no factual evidence that Noah's Ark happened. We know that could not be possible because the methane gas, right? Again, science outbeats it. Doesn't make sense. Those bodies of water filled with bodies, like ocean water, which is salt water, messing with spring water, like it can't work. Like there's definitely no proof that the Hebrews were ever in Egypt, right? Like nothing. It points to that, right? So there's so much that is just like, you're lying. You did not do any research. You didn't, not for real. Not for real. You did not, absolutely not. And you definitely didn't question any evidence that was brought to you, right? You didn't question it and do your own research and look into it yourself. I know people said, oh, people wrote about him, and people wrote of a man, but even those people didn't believe that he was Jesus. They didn't believe that he was like the Messiah. I believe like a lot of texts that talk about Yahweh back then thought he was a grifter. Like he was a grifter and he did like little magic tricks and things like that. But like they didn't attribute them to being miracles. I think one, I can't remember his name, but somebody was reading from the paper, and I have access to it because I'm in the Discord and all this stuff is in their Discord. But Jesus, like, pretty much was like this short, bald man that resembled like Golem. That's how this guy described him, right? This Yahweh character, and how like he and his crew were actually like pirates, right? So like, it's like this whole idea that, oh, there's so much proof, like absolute lies. I heard of that just yesterday. Are you talking about the bitter waters, high frequency seeker? Water has no enemies unless you have rabies. These people have rabid tendencies in their absence of reason. I believe that to be true. Yes, they do. But yeah, so him saying like, oh, there's so much evidence of the Bible, that's like a complete lie. There's no actual evidence that this Bible is not historically correct. And then in fact, there's a lot of like historical inaccuracies, even in the story of Jesus. For example, the fact that like in one chapter, I can't remember which one, but it was like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, they all have a different story of Jesus. They all show a different genealogy of Jesus's lineage. One of the things that they also show differently is like one said that King Herod was king when Jesus was born. The other one says like, I can't remember the name of the king, but it was another king, and they're like 10 years apart. There's no possible way that it could have been at the same time. You know what I mean? So like there's all these inaccuracies that if you actually research, that don't add up. But let's see I'll let them finish.
There's plenty of like first century accounts from people like Pliny the Younger, or a guy named Josephus. He's a historian. He talks about Jesus.
Josephus, I've heard that before. I knew he was I just had a feeling. I couldn't remember his name, but that's one of the people that a lot of Christians bring up. But there's a lot of evidence to show that was actually planted in. He never wrote about him. There's a lot of evidence that that those texts weren't actually written by Josephus. There's a guy that I follow on TikTok, Be Easy. He talks a lot about it. I really need to take notes next time because he always gives like, because his platform, he literally talks about every day, like, trust me, bro, God doesn't exist. Jesus never existed. And there's next one. And he asks Christians to come up and give them their evidence, not their faith, not their testimony, their evidence. And a lot of people bring up Josephus and he cuts that down every time. Very interesting. But again, like, I'm going to let him finish. Yes, and how if a man killed a pregnant woman versus a man just killed a baby and not the yeah, exactly. There's so much like God is not pro-life at all. He don't care about these babies. Not to mention the amount of babies that he genocided, right? He would send Israelites out and literally cut down the men, the women, their infants, their goats, their ox, their sheep. Like, this is not a pro-life God at all by any means. But anyways, let's get it. I'll let him finish. He's totally wrong about this. And I don't know if these women are as educated in this perspective, because some people just leave Christianity because it just doesn't align with them anymore. Not necessarily because they've deconstructed and actually broken down the Bible and stripped it down and actually brought critical thought and like critical thinking to the text and what it's actually saying versus what we're taught and things like that. So I don't know if they know too much about that, but I always wonder, like, they don't really ask people who actually have like a specific education, or maybe they do and they don't want to come on. So this is like who they can get. I don't know.
Jesus being crucified on the cross. There's plenty of archaeological evidence to confirm things about the Bible. Coming to like,
sorry,
like even consider if there's a God to begin with. I remember like a specific night. I was an atheist at the time, and me and my Christian friend were staying up to like 4 a.m. arguing, and I was really, really into my atheism, really didn't want him to be a Christian for whatever reason. And he hit me with a question that's like, science says matter cannot be created nor destroyed. I was like, oh yeah, of course. And he said, okay, well, how is there a beginning to anything? Like, you affirm that there's a beginning, like the Big Bang. How did that come about if nothing can be created nor destroyed? And actually, interestingly, Einstein really wrestled with that question. Supposedly, he introduced what's called like a fudge factor, because once he learned that the universe was expanding and it had some kind of beginning, question like, wait a minute, that means there has.
Oh my God. See his lack of understanding. The universe was always there. It has no beginning. It was always there. And no, it's not because it's some entity, right? Because even like Christians will be like, you think something came out of nothing. That's what the Big Bang Theory is. No, it's actually energy contracting, being compressed and expanding. And it constantly is doing that, like constantly with different stars. And then those stars become so powerful. They start to become an orbit. Like, how many galaxies do we have? How many, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's how many planets are created? We're discovering planets all the time. There was just a young man who just started working at NASA who discovered a new planet just like the other day, like last week. Like, we know that there's other constellations, other suns, other stars, other, you know, like, it's always been. It's not that it's ever had the beginning. It's just always been. Right. And I know people try to make that into God, but scientifically, like nobody believes that. Right. Like nobody believes that. He does not have a strong understanding or foundation in science. That's what this tells me, because, again, misquote. That's not true. They don't think that.
There has to be some kind of creator. You know, you look around like this building around us. You don't.
Oh.
Whoa.
I'm just going to let the commercial pass. There we go.
You don't know the architect. You don't know who he is, but you know they exist. They didn't just pop out of nowhere.
The two questions that were super important.
The difference is I can see a building. The difference is we can see a building and we can look up the architect and we can see a picture of him. Then we could likely be like, oh, those are his parents. Those are like, he didn't just come out of nowhere and this building just didn't erect out of nothing because someone said, so be it. Build this library, and it just manifested. Like, the logic isn't logicking. And that's why I really love the deconstruction lives that I watch, because not only do I learn a lot, but it's like it gives you like those resources to kind of like really combat these kind of like foolish arguments. Like, that's not the same as the world being created, right? Even it's like, oh, it's this perfect world. The world isn't perfect. Would a perfect world have natural disasters? You know, there's even certain things about our bodies that aren't perfect. Like, we aren't perfectly made at all. Like, the way that like certain systems that we have don't make sense and would definitely work better if we were perfectly made. You know what I mean? If there was a creator that had some perfect idea.
Important were who is God and how do I come to know him? That world, I believe that nothing else matters, because if God is real, then we should know him. And if we do know him, then like, what does he want us to do about it? Right. You know, growing up, a lot of my friends growing up were people of different faith backgrounds or even no faith backgrounds as well. During that time, I was studying. I wanted to know God because I told myself, I don't want to just believe in God because my parents believe in God. If I'm going to believe in God, I'm going to believe in the right one and the only one. During that time, I just began to study, and I studied a bunch of different religions like Islam and Mormonism, Jehovah's.
Those are all different sectors of Christianity. Even like I said, it's always the Abrahamic religions. They never go outside of them, right? They never explore anything outside of, like, even when they do like Buddhism or Hinduism and things like that. If I bet you, and this is the guy that I told you kind of gives me incel vibes. Hold on. I'll let y'all see him. This guy here. He kind of gives me incel vibes. Like I said, when that black man was like, I think we can all agree that, you know, treating women this way is wrong. He was kind of like, like, what are you scratching your head about? Can you agree or not? But what he's saying, like, it's always like Mormonism is another sector of Christianity. Jehovah's Witness, another depiction of Christianity. Like, there's 45,000 denominations of them. If you're just going through different versions of what you believe, are you really studying? Are you really learning? And are you really looking for an answer? Are you just looking within your own, kind of like within what feels comfortable for you, which is Christianity? But I'm going to let him finish.
Jehovah's Witness. I just felt my heart being very, very hard during that time. One of my friends at the time, who she was the one that led me to Christ, she told me to go home and read the Bible like a child. That's exactly what I did. I went home and I read through all the New Testament. And as I continued to read,
I think it's funny that he started with the New Testament and not the Old, right? I feel like a lot of new Christians do that too. Oh, I read the New Testament. Why don't you read the Old? How can you have the Old Testament without the New? How can you understand God the Father, but only see it through the lens of God the Son? And even like still like, how do you read a story about Jesus calling a woman a dog and say like, this guy loves everybody? When he literally says time and time again, I came, like Jesus says over and over again, I came for the lost sheep of Israel. He did not come to die for the world. He came representing as the Messiah, and the Messiah was supposed to come and rescue the Israelites, not everybody. You know what I mean? You caught that too? Right? Not everybody. So it's like, how do you do that? It was Paul. Like a lot of these guys are Paulinian. They're not Christians. They're Paulinians. Because it was Paul who came and told the Gentiles that they have a place in the kingdom of heaven, that God was accepting of them. And that's because they had a lot of trouble getting Israelites to accept this Jesus. And another reason why a lot of the Israelites did not accept Jesus, or even Yahweh, if you want to call him, is because that he honestly really didn't even, he didn't fulfill any of the prophecies. Like not one prophecy did he fulfill. All that walking on water and turning water into wine, those weren't prophecies. Those weren't prophesied. Like those are miracles that he did, but they weren't prophecies about what the Messiah would do. And what I find Christians do is when you read, oh, he's supposed to do that when he comes back. But the original prophecy didn't say that he was supposed to die, go away, and come back. Is that he was supposed to be that? Like one of them is he was supposed to sit on the throne in Israel. He was never supposed to die and then come back and sit on the throne. He was supposed to come and sit on the throne and unite the nations, right? Jesus never did any of that. So it's very it's very funny to see, like, I don't believe that he read the whole New Testament. I just like, even the fact that he thinks like this was the one who was like, oh, I still sin sometimes, I still slip up. Didn't you read First John 3? I know it's verses 1 through 10 or something, where it says that once you have the Spirit of God, that you cannot sin no more, right? You cannot sin anymore. So you backsliding, you're a child of the devil. Sorry, I love telling Christians you're a child of the devil. They hate me for it. That's why they call me a demon. But because I point out they're the ones who are actually a child of the devil. Like, because you're not supposed to be able to sin anymore. You're not supposed to have it in your heart. Like the laws of God are supposed to be written on your heart. You're not supposed to be able to move forward within your Christian life and sin, right? She said, right, laugh out loud. That's what they say he had to do do the spiritual stuff first. Exactly. I also don't believe his story about the girl telling him that the Bible, to read the Bible like a child. Exactly. Because if you, first of all, reading the Bible like a child, it's like, you don't necessarily have like a 5-year-old reading the Bible won't understand it like you being in your 20s, or even a 16-year-old. Like you have a childlike mindset. I mean, I like truly thought that, Power Rangers and Sailor Moon might be real when I was little. You know what I mean? Like I had an imagination where it's like I could maybe even accept something like a serpent talking in a garden. Right? I mean, in plenty of cartoons, like, you know what I mean? Powerball Z, like you could have given me anything as a child to believe. And I would have been like, oh my gosh, really? That's why they indoctrinate us so young, because our minds are pliable to believe these sort of things and without question. So to read the Bible as a child and being told to do that as a grown person sounds absolutely ridiculous to me. I also don't believe that story. Okay, yeah, I just read that one. So yeah, we agree there. That didn't make any sense. And it's also like a stupid way to read the Bible as a grown-ass person, to read it like a child.
Read, the Lord just began to break down my walls, and he began to honestly just soften my heart through that. That is how I became a Christian, but also through studying like all the different history of like who Jesus is, and realizing that he's like the one that claims to be God in the flesh. And so I believe that to be true today.
The realism is that I did grow up in a Christian home, and I grew up in the South. And so like, you're going to be a Christian a lot of times if you're in the South, especially being African American in the South. And so that was the first thing that was approached or what I was born into. And so the reality is you generally are going to follow the types of religions. We heard it even from this creator earlier, like you generally follow those types of religions. It's up to you to figure out when you get a little bit older and have experiences and have a mind to think, do you want to continue following that? And I think for me, it wasn't just that.
I feel like this black guy, if given the right push, he would be deconstructing. Because his beliefs. Oh, am I playing it on screen? Oh my God, I'm not supposed to be. I hope I didn't do too much that they friggin' strike my channel. But like, he just seems like he has a lot of sense, and it just seems like it's just what he always, like he said, like what he always believed. So he just continued to believe it, and it doesn't seem like he explored anything else. Interesting. Hopefully I didn't have it too long up, guys. I hope my channel doesn't get striked.
I was born into it, but it's those encounters I had with God that changed my life. Yeah, sure, I could have went to any religion for sure, 100%. But because the one that I was born into was giving me encounters that I would have never experienced, such as love, when I didn't have my father in my life, to experience love from a true father.
I just want to say, it's so easy to get people who have daddy issues into the church. They're all looking for that father figure. Well, I can't find my father here on earth. My father's not showing up for me here on earth. So they look to this guy and they look to this God to be this loving father to them. And then they attribute all these things. Like, I'm pretty sure if he were to share some of his testimony, it would be a result of him doing the work. You know, like a lot of these Christians, like, God got me a job. Like, the job didn't just come knocking at your door. You were like all of them, like, oh no, I handed out several resumes before I got the job. You did that then. Like, there was no God there. Like, if you had told me, I said to myself, God, I want a job. And then someone knocked on your door and was like, I got a job for you. Do you want a position? That's a miracle. You didn't do nothing. You didn't send out a resume. Just walking down and someone offered you a job. It never happens that way, though. It never happens in that way. It's always like they do the work and then they attribute it to God. And then if things don't go that way, they either tell themselves, well, it's God just saying it's not right now, or the devil is interceding and punishing them and doing the devil's work in their life. Like, it's never, you know what I mean? Like, it's never like, it's never a real miracle, which is like something that's like undeniably cannot be seen. It's always like them doing the work and then God gave them the strength to do the work, when really it's just like, it's you, my love, it's you. How do you even read a book and do no actual research into the origins of the book? That's basic research when dealing with any media content. Absolutely. But you see, like, so many people do not do that, even with media, right? There's been times where, like, and even I've been guilty of this, like, back in the past. Like, now I check everything when I see something. Even when I see someone someone says someone passed away, I gotta do a quick research, because people will just randomly say stuff that are not true, right? I have a friend who does that, and well, she doesn't do it anymore, because she used to always send me stuff, and I'd check it and I'd be like, oh, this isn't true, or this is not founded in whatever. I looked it up and whatever. I think she just got annoyed with me checking everything that she said, but that's smart. You know what I mean? You should check everything that you're sent. You should research. You shouldn't just believe it just because someone who seemingly looks trustworthy or that you trust said or told you or taught you. You should be able to look into things, right? You should be able, and if they discourage you, that's like a red flag that they're not being completely honest with you, because if they really thought that that was the truth, then what's the issue? But we're going to continue. Let's listen.
Father, when the Bible says he's a father to the fatherless, I mean, that'll hit you differently, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, anything. Like, that'll hit you differently when somebody tells you you're a father to the fatherless, and now he will bottle up your tears. I mean, that's a big deal when he tells you that I'm made in the image of God.
Cool, and I think that's a good time to bring up the disagreeing side.
This month, Nutrifarms is well.
Let's let this commercial pass. They're not long, so that's good.
Okay, so being on the disagreeing side, I think at least a just good question to ask before is, do you recognize any specific religion to be true?
Yes and no. I think very much up to interpretation. Like everyone's different. Everyone's going to have different life experiences. So I can't really give a concrete answer for that. I really think it just depends on everyone's livelihoods.
Like I follow paganism, so like I went a completely different, like not different, like to me personally, I think that there are actually more commonalities between Christianity than paganism than one thinks. Like Christmas used to be Yule, Easter used to be Ostera, and there's just like a bunch of different connections, but I don't think that Christianity would be considered the one true religion. And I don't think that there is any religion that we should be considering necessarily the one true religion. Thousands of religions across the world. Who am I alone to say that only one of those is correct and that only one of those should be worshipped? So like in my pagan ways, like I try my best to talk to all of them, like both good and bad, because there's respect. Like there's balance in the world and you have to have balance. Like as above, so below. It's the same thing. But like you guys said, it's what you feel comfort in. And like I think as humans, we all just have that desire to be accepted. And so we cling to religion and we cling to spirituality to find that acceptance and that connection while we're walking this earthly path. And wherever we believe we go is wherever we believe we go.
Like a big, like,
I agree with her. I do think that that's what it is for a lot of people. And I do think that it would be ridiculous to just think, well, why do I know the truth? Just because it's what you've been taught. Like literally, if these same people had been born in India, they'd all be Hindu because that's the majority religion. There would be more likely that you are a part of like Hinduism. If you were born in another place, it would be Buddhism. If you were born in certain places in West Africa, you might believe in Ifa. You know what I mean? Like there's all these different things and all of them may have certain amount of truths. I do, again, even though I do, like I've stepped away from religion and even some parts of spirituality, I still don't even call myself necessarily an atheist because, well, that's why I say agnostic atheist, because I'm not necessarily saying there's nothing out there. I don't know. But I definitely think like the way that religion is built, particularly the patriarchal ones, are more for control, keeping men in power at the head of things to keep women oppressed, because women are such strong beings. Like even science is proving that women are, you know, stronger in certain things, like even the way that we are better, like hold on, y'all. Oh my gosh, that's my alarm. Hold on. The fire alarm is going off. I turned it off in my unit, but it's still there. This is so annoying. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Should I do a part 2, y'all? I don't want to stop. Like, it's not even like, we're only like, we're not even that far in. We're not even that far into the conversation being had. I know we've been on for an hour, but and that noise is very annoying. Oh! And of course, like 9 viewers come through. There is no fire. I checked. God is not happy and sending me a signal. Okay, sure. Then why is God only doing it now? Had this channel up and I have had my foot on his neck for like, I don't know, almost over a year now. But now he does it and does it in such a way that it's a fire alarm. I've even done like a commentary like this and nothing like this happened. Y'all Christians say anything. No, I'm joking. I don't know if you're really a Christian or you're just being joking around in the comments. Of course, I'm going to make sure I'm safe. Give me a moment. I'm going to just double check with everybody. 1 second. There is no fire. I just double checked with my landlord. There's no fire. Something set it off. But what I can do, at least for now, is I can play it. We're going to listen. I'm going to mute myself so you can't hear that bullshit. And hopefully it'll stop. But I'm going to listen. I'm going to take like notes of what I want to talk about, because I don't want to just stop it and come back. I really don't want to do that. So it should be off. I'm just going to let the video play a little bit. We're going to listen, and then I'll come back and make commentary on it. Okay, you're fooling around with me? Okay. I'm like, did a Christian subscribe just to talk? Because I keep it subscribers only. I'm not in the mood to go back and forth with Christians. Let me, but we can still listen.
Like underlying question, what we think the purpose of religion is. Like you kind of described it as like what brings you comfort, whereas I think a lot of us would describe it as like, okay, what brings us like salvation to know God truly.
And like my difference with that too is like I personally don't believe that I should have been born with sin. Like my personal like thing is like, if I was born with sin, why did Jesus die? Like there's legitimately no purpose of his death. He died for our sins, yet we're automatically sinners. Why do I need salvation?
That was literally the first thought I ever had when I started questioning Christianity, is like, well, why is sin necessarily bad if he died for it?
Back up on that too, like I remember being in Sunday school and them laying out a graph, and it was like up and down, and it had murder here, and it had like affair down here, and it had lying here, and then it's a straight line and it says all above, and it's like, okay, so I might as well commit murder and lie in the same day and then say I accept God and then I get an automatic pass. But to me, I don't think that's fair that somebody can take another human's life that God created and still get to make it into his afterlife.
Yeah.
Like there's some very conflicting things in that I struggle to believe that that's the truth behind it.
The fact that it was like a graph, that's kind of wild to me, honestly.
Speaking of the afterlife, do you guys believe that there is a heaven or hell?
How childhood neglect
I kind of feel like,
okay, so I might as well commit murder and lie in the same day and then say I accept God and then I get an automatic pass. But to me, I don't think that's fair that somebody can take another human's life that God created and still get to make it into his afterlife.
Yeah.
Like there's some very conflicting things in that I struggle to believe that that's the truth behind it.
The fact that it was like a graph, that's kind of wild to me, honestly.
Speaking of the afterlife, do you guys believe that there is a heaven or hell?
You can go a few months longer, so.
I honestly kind of feel like hell, quote unquote, is like Earth right now. You know, there's too much bad stuff. Another thing that I question, if our God is a loving God, like why does so many bad things happen? Why are there so many like starving children? Like why does violence happen? It's just hard to not question those things. If it's like, okay, if there is a loving God, which I would love to believe that there's a loving creator, I do believe in that. But I also feel like there has to be some sort of reason for why the bad things happen. But I do believe in an afterlife. I do hold some solace that I will get to see my loved ones again someday.
I believe in an afterlife, but I don't believe in an afterlife in the aspect of like heaven or hell. Like I believe there are different realms. I believe there are different places that you can go to. I don't think that we're limited just to heaven, and I don't think that we're limited just to a hell. I think that even when you're in the afterlife, you can go and visit, because I struggle with the concept of like once you're in hell, you're in hell, because I have a lot of friends and family who are Muslim. So I know I've studied a lot of Islam as well too. From what my understanding of what they have said to me is that you go to hell, but you are able to get redemption to then go and join Allah, and you join that. And so like with Christianity, I struggle with it because it's like God knew my story before I was even born. You made me a sinner. You died for nothing. I continue to sin. You made my life suffering, and then I still have to live in eternal punishment for the rest of my life. That's not very fair. That's very cruel. And it's like, if it was maybe to where it was like, oh, you can earn your redemption back up, it would be different. But like for me, I don't know. Afterlife is, I do believe in it, but I don't believe in the I don't know, like this straight construct of there's this or that.
McKenna, you mentioned you would love to believe in a loving God, loving creator. Do you have thoughts about just good and evil, since you talked about how it's hard for you to believe in good God will allow evil things?
Yeah, so I kind of go into I think it's called like metaphysics a little bit, where it's like you said earlier, the balance of the universe. That's how I tell myself that is why the reason things happen. Like, again, I do believe in a loving creator. I just feel like, you know, the universe is balanced. So in order for all the good to happen in the universe, there has to be some bad that happens. So that's what I tell myself.
Quick question. I mean, I think about, like, for example, think about faith in general. I have faith that Alexander the Great was a real man and did a lot of good and bad things. Have I ever seen a man? No, but I believe him. I believe he's a real person. I think about Jesus, the same thing. Like, never seen him. I have faith that he was a real person. Can I show you evidence of it right now? No, I can't right now, of course. I bring that up just because, like, do you struggle more so with, like, Jesus as a man who came to die for your sins and what theology would say about, like, the Bible would say about Jesus? Or do you struggle more so of, like, what you consider, like, God, like the loving God, a creator?
I would say I struggle more with like the whole Jesus aspect of it. So a little bit of background, I am of Middle Eastern descent. And so the thought of this like white Jesus, that I don't know about your guys' churches, but like in my small town church, it was definitely white Jesus. And, you know, just kind of questioning, like, I don't think he had the straight hair.
I told y'all. Told y'all. Okay, the trucks came. But I do want to talk a lot about what they said, because there's a lot there. One thing for sure, I agree with that girl. And even like, you should see this girl. She's like about the Middle Eastern Jesus and him not being white. The white boys were looking at her like, hold on, let me see. She is bringing them some facts that they did not like. Hold on. She's the one who's talking about him being like not white and whatever. The black guy's like, the white boys. But when the other girl talked about how, you know, sin and being born into sin, and what's the purpose of God coming to die if you're still being born into sin? Like, I thought he took sin away. That's something that I also kind of struggled with. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me. As far as, you know, the Christian perspective of Jesus and him coming to die for sins, even telling children, like, you're a sinner, you sin. And even like the fact that like the chart that she said, like, oh, you could, like, that was crazy to me. I don't know if I've ever seen a chart, you know, displayed up to describe sin and the different levels of sin and the different things that, you know, sin has involved with it in like the different ways. But I also agree, like, you could just do bad things and then just be like, okay, I'm sorry, you know. And obviously people will be like, well, you know, God knows your heart, so if you're lying, you can still go to hell. But at that same time, in the eyes of the church, they're good, they're forgiven. You know, this is why a lot of predators come into the church, right? They can, because they are able to be forgiven for their sins. The priests and sometimes pastors are willing to keep their secrets in order to make them feel forgiven, make them feel like they have a second chance. A lot of them continue to be predators and just think that they could pray it all away. All of that stuff never ever sat right with me. It didn't align for me. This whole thing about, you know, whether or not Jesus was a person of color or not and things like that. Well, I don't know. I do know that this Bible says that it comes from the people of Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, are Syrian people. Some people say Mesopotamian. If you look at that map, if you look up like an ancient Mesopotamia map, you can actually see that the Caucasus Mountains are right there. Right, hold on, let me see. Let me go to Google. Ancient mess. When somebody showed me this, I was like, why is the Caucasus Mountains so close? You know what I mean? Let me see images. I want to see if I can pull up an image for y'all. So, one second. Just put this down for a second. And I'm going to share the Google screen. Because this always is like, I don't know. Let's stop screen. And then go to this. Oops. Oh, whatever. I'll just do it later. Share screen. The trucks. Well, that's me. I'm reading my own message. Anyways, ancient Mesopotamia, Google search, share. So, I wonder if we can go here. No. Am I sharing? I'm kind of like making a segue, but I find this so interesting to me. Let me add it to the stage. So, how come it didn't open it up bigger? Damn it. Did it come up here? Hold on. If it's not going to work, then I'm just going to go back to it because it's not about that. But if you look up a map of ancient Mesopotamia, and it's not pulling up, so that's fine. Not so that you can see it. It literally shows the Caucasus Mountains are right there. Right, they're right there, right above. It's ancient Mesopotamia, and the Caucasus Mountains are right above it. So I don't know, but according to the Bible, he is Syrian, of the people that were Syrian, or again Mesopotamian. The Bible is Mesopotamian mythology. So I'm going to share my screen again so we can look. Share, add to the stage, and then, but yeah, so they're right. She's kind of. I like how she's kind of lit. You know what I mean? She kind of knows that she's talking. She's definitely asking the right questions.
I don't think he had that white skin. So I would say that I do believe that he happened, but from there on, I have questions. But I'll never know those questions until my time comes. And even then, I won't be able to tell anyone. So
if youth was an equation,
it's another commercial. Gosh, there's going through a lot of commercials. Is it just me, or is there so many commercials? They're not long either, though, so I guess that's a good thing.
I think that we, all of us would agree that Jesus was 100% not white, right? He was obviously.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I know. I hate to break it to you, but he wasn't. One thing that I will say is that I think that the American church, and I'll say this with confidence, I think that they have done an awful job of representing who Jesus is. And for that, and I'm sure that we all agree, I'm very sorry about that. A lot of churches in the United States, and some that I've experienced, that just
I would like to say also that the whole idea that Jesus is black is just also not true. When you go to that verse in Revelations that they like to point out where they say, oh, his hair was like wool. If you read the actual verse, they say his head and his hair is white like wool. His head and his hair is white like wool. And I know people will go, what about the feet, the brass feet? Well, I will challenge you to look at the foot bottom of any white person who's walked around in sandals long enough on a sandy fucking beach, in a desert, in such as the place of Syria, in Iran, all those places, okay, where you see the camels and stuff, their feet, and sometimes the sand is red, like a bronzest red, would be stained, right? Remember, these people didn't believe in bathing like that. So their feet being so dirty that it would be bronze-like is not above and beyond. But I just want to say that to be clear, because a lot of people are like, oh, Jesus is described as black, but he is not. They are from Syrian, ancient Mesopotamia, which fine, maybe people of color, but that specific verse says his head and his hair is white like wool. Not that it felt like wool, that it was white like wool. You see a lamb, we know that wool is white. So I'm just saying.
It's like they give you this picture of Jesus that's like your life is going to be 100% better, and they create this narrative that Jesus is only here to make you a good person. The Jesus that we believe in is that these other religions, they exist to make bad people good, but Jesus comes to make dead people live, right?
I really agree. I've always had like an issue with, particularly the West portrays Jesus, especially with making him out almost to be self-help. Like he's just another self-help tool.
Yeah.
I really don't like that, because I kind of believed in that sort of gospel at first, until I'd read the Bible and I would come to really challenging verses where Jesus asked me, okay, sell all your possessions. And I'm asking, what in the world does that mean for me? Or he tells, like, you know, he says, carry your cross. I know what Jesus did when he carried his cross. He went and died. Like, what are you asking me to do? When we portray him as self-help, we really just miss a point of the gospel. It's not about me, but it's more about the world around me. It's about his kingdom.
You think about the story, since you guys.
I don't really understand them coming from that perspective. So he died for your sins, and not to change the world, not to change you, even though, again, like, what book are you reading? Because, like, even, like, I mean, you know what? To be fair, I think it was Paul and John that had an argument about that, right? One of them was saying faith without works is dead, meaning that you had to do the work. It couldn't just be that you had faith in Jesus. You had to do the works. And I think it was Paul that was like, no, you don't have to do the works. Faith alone is enough. You know, so even the disciples argued about what it meant. And it's just like, if he didn't give you all clear instructions, like, what is going on? Right? I'm telling you. Like, what is going on? Like, I mean, not even the disciples honestly knew exactly what it meant and what it looked like. They argued amongst themselves about it. You know what I mean? So I can understand their perspective of even that being a confusing thing. And depending on whichever church you go to, they'll tell you, you know, whether or not it is or so, right? Like, so John was like, you know, which makes sense, because in 1 John 3, like I said, he says, you know, if you sin again, you should, once you accept the Spirit, there's no going back. If you sin again, you're a child of the devil. You never knew him, and all that business, right? So I guess it makes sense that that's what John believed, where Paul kind of like took things into his own hand. And I never understood why anybody even listened to Paul. Like, he used to crucify Christians, and then all of a sudden he came back from a journey in the desert after having a concussion and was like, hey, y'all, Jesus spoke to me. You of all people. And then honestly, he changed a lot of things that Jesus himself said that while he was here, right? He went against a lot of what Jesus said, which was like, again, accepting the Gentiles, right? Whereas Jesus was like, nah, I didn't come for y'all. I came for the lost sheep of Israel. You know, Paul came in like, nah, don't worry about that, y'all. You know, he got to get his numbers up in his church, right? Harakism says, I don't consent to Jesus. I don't consent to a kingdom. I don't consent to the rules that other men made to control people's lives. I surely don't consent to wars by rich men who rob everyone via taxes. Absolutely. And I've said it before, like, if you look at Christian countries, predominantly Christian countries, they're some of the worst off countries, especially in compared to more atheist countries. One country that I'll always bring up, the Congo is 90%, over 90% Christian, y'all. The Congo. Look at what's going on over there. Look at, why isn't God showing up? Why isn't Jesus showing up for a country that is over 90% for him, right? And that's the population. That's the people that live there. People were like, oh, it's corruption. But again, why is this God allowing this to happen to his people, this all-loving God? You know, why is he letting 25,000 children die every day from starvation? How is this our love? And this is going on in countries where are predominantly supposed to be servicing this all-loving God, this who loves us all equally, and all these things. These are some of the things that that bothered me too, and why I had to step away and move away from Christianity. So yeah, I'm with you, Power Kismic. I do not consent to any of that shit. Not a one.
I did both grow up in the Christian church. By the way, some of the stories you're telling me, about how you portrayed Jesus in Christianity, I would never choose him either. I mean, is there a part of Jesus' story or the story of God that would have made you say something different than like, I don't really like that idea that he suffered for no reason, and then the whole thing you just brought up, like, is that part you'd be like, if he had done this though, I would maybe start to believe more?
I mean, honestly, probably not. I have a lot of friends who are Christians, and I very much respect their beliefs, just as I want the respect for mine. But at the same time, like, for me personally, there has been so much oppression that has come with Christianity and under the name of God. And I'm not like, there are legitimately people who are out there that are good Christians who believe the Bible, who worship the actual Bible. And I do respect that. And I think that that is beautiful, because I do think there is a lot.
Then she has not read it. Like, there's no way. Like, I'm sorry. Reading it, I can't respect it. I'm sorry. That's just me. I don't think she's actually read it, because that Bible condones slavery, condones genocide, condones rape, uses it as punishment. And I'm not talking about the people in the Bible. These are things that God has commanded himself in this book. So it's funny to hear her talk about this feminist perspective, being pagan, all these things, but ignoring those types of things in the scripture. Again, it seems like all of them kind of have not really done the deep dive, not really done the research, whether they stepped away or not, which I think kind of what happened in the last video that we kind of did, like where I think it was Black Christians versus ex-Black Christians. And it was kind of the same thing. The ex-Black Christians didn't align with them anymore, but it wasn't also based on any like factual historical information. It was more about the feelings and just things like that. So I think there was one girl that kind of brought it up, but the thing is like this biblical God does believe in chattel slavery. And all chattel slavery is, if you look up the definition of chattel slavery, it is just owning someone else as property, being able to, movable property as they call it, being able to be a slave forever, right? Pass them down to your children. That is in Leviticus 25, 44 through 46. It's described. It is a law that God gave. It was different than indentured servitude in the Bible. Indentured servitude was for Israelites alone. You could do chattel slavery, but you had to go to the foreign nations around you or buy those slaves from the foreigners that lived in the land. So if I would have been asked that question, I would have been like, Jesus could have came back and said, no, free all the slaves right now. Make women equal, right? They're not your property. Nobody should be your property. That's one thing that Jesus could have come back and said that I would have been like, maybe he is a good guy. But instead he used many parables to strengthen and condone and further perpetuate these awful things. She's doing that patriarchy Patty thing. Some women do when they apologize and concede to oppression out of politeness. Where's the rage for the injustice? Nothing. Okay, we can all shrug our shoulders. Exactly. That's exactly what I say. Patriarchal Patty too. You know what I mean? Because it's true, and it's just a way to kind of like you said, pacify their Christian friends, because they don't want to feel like they're condemning them. They don't really want to check them on what it is that their belief systems perpetuate, and they allow themselves to ignore that and be like, well, you're a good person at heart, so I'm going to let you continue to believe this. But for me, I do want to shed light on how harmful this religion is and how harmful it is to not just women but to men too, because at the end of the day, the truth is patriarchy is harmful to men, right? It's the reason why a lot of men do not feel comfortable getting help for their mental health. They feel like they're supposed to be stronger than that. Things like that. There's a lot of ignorance that it gives men, and it keeps them a Neanderthal. You know what I mean? So definitely harms them as well.
A lot of beautiful things within Christianity, but I think it has become weaponized throughout history. I personally have found so much freedom and rejoice in myself as a person, as a woman, worship myself as a goddess almost, in the aspect of like, I am one with nature and I come from nature and nature comes from me. Not that I come from a man's rib, not that I come from, or that I'm the fall of sin like Eve, because it's Eve's fault that we sinned. And I think that's another ways that they control women, they weaponize. There is too much that I can look at from the Bible and say that I just don't agree with it to not be able to like really fully, I think, dive back into Christianity again.
Yeah, and I could totally see that perspective. Honestly, if you do,
Yeah.
if we do read that lens, see, there's a pretty decent bit of things you can kind of pull out from there.
Christianity should adapt to modern culture. As always, we'll have the agreeing side come up now.
An IQ of 85 to 1.
Another commercial, y'all. Let me skip.
What is something just immediately that you think of, anyone, that it needs to adapt to?
I'd start off with the gay marriage thing. I know there's a lot of churches that have bridged that gap and are more accepting of it. It would be nice to see Christianity as a whole acknowledge that, even though I know what the Bible says, man and woman, times have changed. The Bible was written thousands of years ago. So
I'll say this, like, the whole thing about being gay was added in like 1945, which was not even that long ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was 1945 that the whole gay is not okay thing was added into the Bible. Prior to that, I believe, and from a rabbi, I heard a rabbi discuss this, and it's according to the original Hebrew text, it was man shall not lie with man. Never said anything about women lying with each other, never mentioned lesbianism, but it was man shall not lie with man, and it was more about their station. Like, you can't sleep with someone. You could penetrate somebody, but someone could not penetrate you because it would make you lose status. You see that a lot too. Romans also believe that. You see how it kind of intertwines. The Roman Catholic Church kind of brought in that, and then, you know, but the Romans believe that, like, you to sleep with a man that was under your station would then defile you. Like, you could not be the one penetrated, but you could do the penetrating, which is why they touched a lot of little boys and little girls and stuff like that. So this whole idea of like gay being in the Bible as being wrong was actually added later, and it was to further continue to, brainwash us and to keep us separated. Because when people look at the LGBT community and see them being free, living their life the way that they choose and things like that, it is a threat to patriarchal power, right? So they had to find a way to do it. So they changed the doctrine to add that being gay was wrong, which is why I even do my videos, Gay in Nature. I haven't done one in a while. I'll probably do one by the weekend. But like, there's over 1,500 species that have homosexuality and that practice homosexuality. So I have a script already written up for it. I'm going to be doing the bonobos, right? Which is our closest ancestors, right? We share over, like, I think 98% of our DNA with them. They're our closest cousins, as far as our relationship with nature. So it's always interesting to see, but that perspective definitely was added in later on. And I do think that they should definitely take it back out. But if they do, then, again, that loss of control, that loss of patriarchal structure will shake it, which is what they don't want. It was actually about older men and younger men, i.e. boys, because they were socially in different statuses. Oh, was it? Yeah, I knew it was something like that. It was something like that. But the Romans did like doing stuff to little boys, that's for sure. They definitely did. You know what I mean? They definitely, yeah, they definitely did. But yeah, so I know that it was like, again, it was like more of a status thing, like you said. Like, you couldn't, if you did sleep with another man, he had to be under your status and you could not be penetrated. That's why even in, like, another example of that in the Bible would be in Sodom and Gomorrah. People say, oh, it's about gay. It's not about gay people. Those men came to beef with Lot because Lot was protecting them. They didn't know who these men were that entered their city. And the reason why they wanted to do that to them was because they came in and they didn't have any permission to be there. So all the men in the city came and was like knocking on Lot's door, and it was like, even said Lot, like, Lot got in the way, was like, oh no, please take my virgin daughters, you can rape them. And they were like, we don't want them. He's like, who are you to tell us who can come through our city? Now we're gonna do worse to you than we were to them. It was an act of war. It was an act of like violence. Like, they were not trying to like make sweet love to them, you know what I mean? And nor did were making sweet love to each other. You know, and even if they did, that was not a city that was like under the doctrine of God. God was giving his people, those people in Sodom and Gomorrah were not a part of his people. They were not Israelites. He had no business to tell them what to do anyways, according to this book, right? It's all in the book when you read it. It's crazy. But yeah, let's continue.
I think it would be nice to see it come forth that way.
I'm going back to like the whole thing with women. Like, it's still like insane to me that women are like in the church, like children bearers, housewives, clean the house, like do all of this and that. Like, when statistics show that there are more women in the workforce today than there are men. It needs to modernize like the concept of like roles in families.
I would love to branch off of that and also focus on the religions that don't allow women to be the pastors or the reverends. I think that is so outdated that I would love to just see that go completely away.
Yes.
I'd like to even almost say that's unbiblical too. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like there's examples of women in the Bible leading within like Paul's churches, and even in the early church. If you study like church history, there's women in the early church that lead. So it's I promise you, it's more.
He's right about it being in not early churches, because the first church came like way after. Even the first like synagogue, temple was way after. That's another reason why like the Bible doesn't add up, and it talks about synagogues like after the first synagogue wasn't made till after Jesus died. And like him teaching the rabbis that went to the synagogue, that wasn't a real thing historically. That's another historical inaccuracy. Hi, honey.
Hi.
I'm on live. I'll come say hi to you when I'm done, okay? But yeah, so like that was another thing that was like historically incorrect in the Bible, is that there was like these synagogues and they had these temples. They didn't have that till like I think 100+ years after Jesus passed away. So it doesn't make sense. And on top of that, yes, there was women judges, but those were Israelites, not Christians. It wasn't Christian doctrine. And Paul was the one who said women should be silent. So him being like, oh, I think Paul, like, again, you think, but you don't know. And it shows that you didn't read your book, because Paul most definitely said women should not be speaking. You know, women be silent. Women are under their husbands, who is under God, and all that. That's all Paul talking. So there's that.
It's more of like it's kind of like a tradition thing rather than a biblical thing.
I think the issue though with that is that there have been so many churches who have taken it and made it presented as biblical. So like where I was raised, that was the woman's place, was underneath the man, and it always was, and like it wasn't going to change in 1950s and 1940s and 60s construct. And they use like the Christianity behind it, because like God wants you to have children and God wants to bring children in, and like women are the only way to do that. Pastors in around the United States that still highly preach that, and to this day are still wanting to highly preach and enforce that upon women.
As humans, we all want to be affirmed. We all want to be comforted, if you said earlier, or something knows us for any faith.
I don't know why this is so weird to me, but why is this guy like back there? You see him, like, why is he still back there? Why is he in the back there? Why isn't he sitting with them for this question? Is he standing back there because he doesn't like agree with the question, or doesn't have like, I don't know why he's back there. I don't know why he's back there. It's very odd to me. I don't know. I don't know. I was looking at it, I was like, what the hell is he doing back there? But, you know, they're going on with this thing, and I'm just going to let them keep talking. Hold on. I just thought it was weird.
Religion, whatever you are, like whatever you believe, if you want other people to be a part of what you're doing, then there needs to be a strategy behind how you do that.
Have to be welcoming.
Whether it looks 200 years, it's not the way it's going to look today. And so if I'm going off of the 200 years ago model of Christianity, I'm going to have a struggle trying to get to people nowadays to try to know Christianity. If you go off of you guys have read the Bible a little bit enough or whatever. The early church, man, even before then, just going off, it wasn't Christianity, but even the Jewish times. Like, I couldn't cut my hair. I cut my hair last week. And that's obviously cultural, and there's a lot of different, nuance in there.
The fact that they say that and they don't realize how they sound, like the Bible says that not a word should be added or removed. Jesus himself said, not a jot nor tittle of the law shall be changed until heaven and earth pass away. And last I checked, heaven and earth are still here. You know what I mean? So this idea, like, is you just want to change it to make you feel comfortable. You just want to change it to make yourselves feel like you're more modern. But according to this book, it's not supposed to be that way. According to this book, you're not allowed to do that. According to this book, that is punishable and will send you to hell. It's just so weird to me how they kind of like don't know this book at all. And they just kind of make up things to make themselves feel more comfortable within the religion because of what it means for them if they let it go, whether it be that, the people around them will excommunicate them. In some churches, they go as far as like really not dealing and talking to you anymore. And they push you out, which is also according to what Paul said to do. Paul made that rule. Like, if you leave, you out and you can't come back, right? We don't want nothing to do with you. If you don't believe this, and they say, don't talk to them, don't whatever, because they're like an infection, which is true. Like, we like an infection because when someone starts speaking logic and then it spreads throughout the church, they can't have that. So they need you to leave. They need people not to speak to you and partake in whatever it is that you found out to be true for yourself, because then it'll start to turn other people and make other people think, right? It threatens the indoctrination.
But like, the reality is, like, there's things we need to adapt.
Right, and I think now is a good time to bring in the disagreeing one.
Oh, okay. He disagreed with it.
A few years ago, Tony Robbins helped Serena Williams.
Another commercial. There's a lot. I wonder if it's because it's like, do you know that I'm like streaming this? So this guy disagrees. The incel.
I'm talking specifically about like how.
Remember, I said this guy, the guy that I said that kind of looks like incel, and I was kind of surprised that he agreed that Jesus wasn't white, but he doesn't agree in the modernization of Jesus. That's why he modernization of church, which is why he was still back there in the far back. So that's why he stood back. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, like we teach scripture within the church and how churches just simply are. And so what I mean by that is that I think that we've lost a huge reverence for just the gospel in a lot of the church. And I think that that as a culture honestly just breaks my heart. And I think that a lot of churches in America don't really understand what's going on outside of the United States and realizing that there are Christians that are being persecuted every single day. I don't believe that we really love the gospel as much as we should. And so that's why I stayed in the back, because that's where my mind was at with like modern culture. I do believe that a lot of like what everybody here was talking about, like absolutely needs to be happening. Like, for example, I go to a church with women pastors and like, I'm great with that, a deeper reverence for just who Jesus is as believing that he is God in the flesh. Cause I think that we've kind of lost a lot of that in the church today.
Do you think when the rules, the principles, guidelines of Christianity were laid out, do you think that they were laid out to exist at that rate for all of time? Or do you think that they were laid out to suit the time that it was?
So when we go back to looking as it was meant to stay as it is, I think in that aspect, the more control that they had, the more power they had, then the more they were able to conquer, the more they were able to colonize, the more land, the more wealth, because like the church was higher than kings and queens. It always was. You had that much power as a church and you were held to that much regard. How much power can you have over the entirety of the world? So I do think that their original goal was to maintain the same frames, keep women at the bottom, keep slaves enacted, continue to steal from the poor, continue to aid in the wealthy. And you see a lot of that still today in our political system now. I mean, we have so many people claiming they're Christians, and yet they're supporting mass genocide. They're supporting mass starvation. They're supporting the kidnappings of people off the street. They're supporting all of these horrible things that you wouldn't necessarily want to ever deem Christian, but they're loudly in the face of you saying this is the name of God. So I do think that there were some people who wanted to keep that original sense in play. And then I do think there are some people who legitimately are like, no, this could be something beautiful, and took it into a different way.
I'd love to speak into that. So like you
I just want to say I agree with her completely. She's got a good perspective in that sense. Very true. Like I said, like the whole deal with slavery, all those things, genocide, like that's all in there. That's all. And people will be like, I'm willing to bet that this little boy, that the blonde one, is going to be like, oh, because he's the one who's like, oh, I just like to interject. He likely is going to say that that's the Old Testament God. But you cannot find anywhere in the New Testament that condemns any of those things. In fact, it reinforces it a lot of the times through a lot of the parables that Jesus spoke on and things like that. Who's going to tell them Jesus didn't ever state to worship him? Have they ever heard of Constantine and the Inquisition? Christianity is a tool of state control over the population. Absolutely. And likely they never ever heard of those things. It's very likely that they never ever heard of those things.
Yeah, like you said, like you feel like, did you kind of say like you feel like Christianity was like almost laid out for power, like it was established to gain power and to suppress women and stuff?
Yes.
I just want to clarify. Okay. I guess what my mind thinks about is like just how Christianity started with persecution from actually paganism. It started with the early church being persecuted for 300 years. Christ called his disciples to be ready to go and die for me, and they didn't have anything to gain. These were poor people serving other poor people. This went on for, like I said, 3 centuries before Christianity was ever like even legalized in the Roman society. But until that point, Romans were burned at a stake. They were beheaded. They were made an example of, and paganism told them that you need to believe in our religion because
it wasn't paganism. He's like, because pagan is like a broad word for pretty much anything that's not Christian, right? Like they deemed Ifa paganism. However, Ifa never persecuted Christians and burned them at the stake and things like that. Yes, Romans were doing that, and it was largely because they were trying to start their own church outside of the Roman laws, which is why they would have said Yahweh got crucified, not because they actually believed he was the Son of God. It was because he was starting a new church and a new doctrine, and he wasn't following the laws in which he had to do and establish those things at that time. So they weren't following, and that's how a lot of things were handled. And again, this is like a Bronze Age perspective. Like they weren't the only ones being persecuted in this way by Romans back then when they were doing their conquering and pillaging, right? But again, when it became useful for them, they utilized Christianity, took it, made it their own, intertwined with it. So all these things that he's against, it's not a representation of the Christianity that would have ever existed in our lifetime.
you're angering the gods. And since you're angering the gods, we need to take you out. But every religion kind of does their wrong. Within the first 4 years of Islam, they were conquering nations. I would like to say that it took Christianity many centuries to ever get to that point of political power to start conquering nations and persecuting other people. And of course, that's not godly. This is the God who says to, be okay, not sitting at the highest seat. This is the God that asked us to sell all our things. It's not what the Bible.
Why isn't he talking about the God that said to go into other nations and conquer them? Go to other nations, and if they choose to serve you willingly, then so let them be. If not, slaughter them and make them your slaves. What are you talking about? Constantine adopted Christianity as state religion to become the head of the Roman Empire. It's a shit show ever since. Absolutely. He's very I can understand where he's getting it from, but he's just regurgitating doctrine, church doctrine that's been taught to him. Again, what do I expect? I don't expect anything less. Yes, please tell us how the genocide is just a faux pas. Exactly, yo. It's just a faux pas. Yes, we did do those things eventually, but it wasn't meant to be, but it is now. It is what it's used for now. It is used for control now. The version of the Christianity that you are practicing is not the version that you're describing. And you can tell yourself whatever you want, but when you go to church every Sunday and you pay your tithes, right? Which even Jesus wasn't against. Didn't Jesus say, give to Caesar what is owed to Caesar? right? Like he wasn't against paying your taxes to Caesar, according to this. Working now, but I am here. You're making great points. Thank you, High Frequency. Thank you for listening while you're working. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you all here. I know it's going on 2 hours. We're actually only like about halfway through the video, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try to take longer pauses so that we can listen more. But it's just some of the things that they say, it's just like so ridiculous. But I'm going to try so that we can kind of like get through it a little bit faster.
Bible says. So that purely is church history. That purely is religion, and I don't think that necessarily makes Christianity false, because paganism has had its issues with that. Islam has had its issues with that. Every religion has.
I do want to back off.
Again, not every religion, and I know he hasn't looked at every religion. Ifa is a closed practice, for example. Not everybody can get in the club, right? You can't just join Ifa and be like, I'm with Ifa and I am a daughter of Oshun. You can't do that. There's certain steps you have to take. There's certain things you have to do, and they don't accept any and everybody in it. Same with a lot of cultures and religions. He's specifically talking about mostly Abrahamic, and it just goes to show like there's this ignorance of like what is led to believe, because that's what churches told us, right? Like, oh, we had to make you Christian, you were worshiping the devil in some sort of way, whether it was voodoo, Ifa, whatever, especially when it comes to people of Black heritage descent. You know, they demonized a lot of us, but a lot of us were not going around doing that. Like he said, like he has to bring up Islam. Yes, they did. Like the Islamic slave trade was insane. You know what I mean? But again, the Roman empires, that's not everybody. And that wasn't a representation of everybody. Oh yeah, I just got finished watching your last video. Looking forward to this commentary. Thank you, Sees the Star. Paganism is not a religion. Thank you. That's a condescending flattening of cultural practices. Absolutely. Like it's such a broad, paganism is such a broad, like brush to paint. It's literally everything outside of like Abrahamic religions, which goes far beyond like, it's insane. Like the lack of education is crazy, but also I do believe in order to believe such things as the Abrahamic religions propose, you do kind of have to be a little bit uneducated or not willing to be educated. But let's continue.
Back off your thing of paganism though, and I don't know if you knew this, but every single pagan holiday Christians took.
Yeah.
So like Christmas came from Yule, Easter came from Ostara, Beltane, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, that's All Saints Day. They took that from the pagans. So All Hallows Eve originally intended, it's when the veil is the thinnest between the two realms, between the afterlife and life. The Christians came in, the Romans and the Catholics came in and told us we couldn't re-worship our gods, that we couldn't worship that because it was satanic, because it was dark, when in reality my ancestors were building bonfires, they were giving sacrifices to their god for fruitful harvest of the next year, for safety of the winter, for fertility, for shelter, for life, for all of these things, and giving thanks and praising. And then the Romans came in and they murdered and they raped and they slaughtered. And then they took our religion and they rebranded it as Christianity. So I don't necessarily think that it was just the pagans coming in and forcing the Christians out. I think that a lot of it has to do with the Christians came in and have rewarped the history and the stories that have been said. I mean, we think about Martin Luther. He took out how many books of the Bible and stapled it to the Catholic Church's door? How many other books of the Bible have been taken out? And what has been taught in modern Christianity is different from what actually happened. I mean, the Alexandria Library completely burned that down. Why do you think that is? Because it holds the actual truth, and it holds so much knowledge of this world that we will never understand. And it's because the church and because of Christianity, they didn't want the common people to know that, because that gives more power and more answers to overcome their God.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good point, and people suck.
See, and then they go into like, oh, that's people, not the God. That's people, not the God, which is why I wish somebody was there. Yeah, finally sis got a word, and it's true. But, and she was like, exactly like, you know, it's like I said, like sometimes
the more you stay home, the less you want to leave. And the more you stay, the heavier everything feels.
I don't know how that came off pause, but yeah, like what you're saying, absolutely true. Like, you know, what people suck. Like, this is not just people. They did it in this God's name a lot of the times. Like the Bible Even like they talk about things being taken out, I'm talking about the stuff that's still in there, right? When I tell you that El gave Yahweh his portion of people, that's why he put Israelites above everybody else and gave them special rules and special doctrine. When I say that this God was okay with chattel slavery, it's because in the Bible, Leviticus 25, 44 through 46 describes chattel slavery, owning another person as property. As long as you were not a fellow, you could not do chattel slavery to your fellow Israelites, but you could do chattel slavery to the foreigners that are outside of your land and the foreigners that lived within your land. You could purchase their children as slaves and things like that, and you could use it as chattel slavery. So, even like the fact like, the raping and pillaging, Deuteronomy, we see God telling his people to go into these lands and take their people, kill the people, all the people. Sometimes they would keep the children under 12. Sometimes it was just the virgin women they kept, right? I've talked about the war brides on this channel. So it's like, that was your God commanding it. It wasn't the people just deciding to do this in your God's name. It was God saying, this is okay. This is what you do. This is what we believe. This is how we treat others. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? They keep talking both sides of their necks. It's people, but not the God they're marching under. Exactly. Oh, why is it still going? Hold on. I don't know why I kept doing that. Hold on. Let me just go back because I don't even know. Oh, wait. Let me go here. So let me unmute.
People just do suck. I do bad things. I'm sure you've done bad things, even though I think I bet you're a great person. Not seriously, I do think, but like, I do hear that point. What I want to ask you would be, you mentioned things about like women oppression. Most of what you guys are both saying is based off of Christianity that have Christians in it who are ultimately human. Going back to the idea that people suck. So it seems like you have less of a problem. You mentioned a little bit more about Jesus, less of a problem with Jesus, Yahweh, we consider the God of the Bible, the God of Jacob, the God of the Old Testament, God of the New Testament also. And it's less about them. And
I have a massive problem with Yahweh. I think there is a big issue with him, in all honesty. I honestly think with Yahweh, like Jesus, no, I think Jesus is fine. I think he was a humble dude who was brought to this earth, and I think
Wrong about Jesus. Jesus was down for Yahweh. Jesus represented Yahweh. He didn't look at, like I said, like if you look at some stories in the Bible with Jesus, he literally said, like he called that woman a dog, that woman that came to him begging him. She followed him for the longest time. And the disciples were like, yo, like Jesus, like this lady won't stop following us. And she was like, please, please, I need you to save my daughter. And he told her, I did not come for you. And what would it be for me to feed you from the table that was meant for my people? And she had to beg, and like he called her a dog. He's like, you come here like a dog begging for food from the table. And she was just like, but don't even dogs get the scraps? And back then, like that was like a slur, calling a woman a dog. He might as well call her a bitch, you know what I mean? Like he might as well, like that was slur. Like back then, being called a viper, a dog, those were slurs, okay? That's like cussing someone out. She had to beg, and then he was just like, you know what? You're accepting your place in life. Go home, your daughter is healed. And I mean, did we ever get confirmation that the daughter was actually healed? You know, she could have went home and her daughter could have been gone. You know what I mean? But even if he did, he only did it once she begged and pleaded. Whereas a difference would be the woman that, well, even though they were trying to trap him in that story, the woman that he stopped from stoning, an Israelite woman, right? Go forth and sin no more. The woman at the well, who he said he came for. It was a very different demeanor and different context in the way he dealt with those women who were of his lineage, who were Israelite women, than he did with women who were foreigners, who were considered Gentiles. So this whole idea, and again, like Jesus even has parables where he says that you should obey God and obey like how you would your earthly master. He wasn't against slavery. He didn't tell them to set their slaves free, and that the laws had changed from what his father had given, and now all slaves are free and no one should own anybody else. Those things did not happen. So again, like it's again that kind of like warped version of like the Jesus that we've been given and indoctrinated to, as opposed to actual when you read who Jesus was and what he was about inside of the actual Bible and what it actually states. And it wasn't even God. It was just a man vouching and acting as the mouthpiece of an imaginary. Absolutely, it was always an imaginary God, right? Like, definitely, you won't hear me argue with you about that. But even in the sense of like thinking that, oh, this God did this God did that, like it's not there. It's not there. You know, even if you wanted to say something like that, it's not there. Like in the doctrine, it is this God that's saying to do this. If this God was real and he was speaking to this man, he was telling him to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's still this light of this whole, oh, God loves us all equally. God loves everybody. That is not depicted in the Bible. No, I don't genocide and rob people on my off days. Speak for yourself. Parachismic's always on one, always making me laugh. High Frequency Seeker says Jesus was very passive aggressive. I think that's why Christians are the way that they are now. Very passive. That's true. That's true. You're right. Very passive aggressive. Let's see what she says.
His dad, and pardon this, was an asshole who sacrificed his son for no reason. Like he died, and we still have sin. Yahweh, I think, is an evil person. I think he's an evil God. He has created so much control and deceit and hate within this world that I do have a problem with him in general.
Yeah, but just to go back to, so I see that. Good. I'm glad you voiced that. To go back to the point you brought up about the laws that he kind of brought up. What laws would you say are in place that do oppress women that you read in the Bible that are still happening today? Like law, not like just a tradition that happened during the culture of time.
The assholey thing about this is the black man that I was saying, kind of whatever, but the assholey thing about him saying that is to act as though women are free everywhere in every Christian country right now. That is not true, right? In the West, yes, and they're rolling back, and I'm pretty sure that this. I don't know when this. Well, I could check. I'm not sure when this video posted and when this interview was done. But I've come across, nobody's stopping women from doing anything now. If you're living in a patriarchy, you're living in a system that oppresses women. Look up the definition of patriarchy. It literally says oppression of women. It describes the oppression of women. It's included. So to act and believe as though that we aren't living in a working system that oppresses women just because you allow us to work, but yet we get paid way less than you do, and all these things is crazy to me. Like, you know what I mean? But it's, again, I knew it. I said it from the beginning when I saw that the two women who were ex-Christians were women on their own and that the men were all Christian. I said the misogyny is going to come. The misogyny is going to start. It's going to start. And here we are. Here we are. Here we are.
I don't necessarily know if I know specific laws in the Bible because I'm going to be real with you. It has been probably a couple of years since I have actually picked up the Bible and read it. But I will say, like, for examples of what I have personally experienced, I have had to go to 3 different medical providers because I cannot get birth control because of religious beliefs, even though I don't believe in that religion. There is so much oppression in every single day. And we have always been considered, I mean, like, we're the fault of sin, right? Because Eve bit from the apple first. We're the fault. That's automatic hate and oppression toward women. It puts us at the fault. We come from a man's rib. We're beneath the man. We're already lower in the eyes of creation. Birth control, sex education. Women are punished for having sex, yet men are worshiped for it. And our virtue is more important. Like, we are worth.
And by the way, I just made it small. It was only 6 months ago that this was posted. So this isn't even like how can he say that when Roe versus Wade was overturned long before this? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how, like, this was saying the ignorance, like, stop it. Like, you literally think that because you've given us a little bit of freedom, a little bit of independence. Oh, we do let you vote. I mean, we do it, like, but in the system where women aren't believed, where we're still like, the injustice is crazy to me, but typical of Christian men. Very typical.
Worth less to a man in Christianity if we've had sex because we're used but men are worth the exact same. That's oppression. Like and that is still stuff that happens. I mean, they still teach women to save yourself for your husband. Another form of oppression is like, especially back to the whole medical thing, is right now with like all of the abortion stuff going on, a lot of that majority is based off of religion. And I am not a Christian and I don't believe in that. So why is my right to my body taken away because of religious oppression? So like those are some few examples that I would have of that.
Yeah, a lot of those things are not in the Bible. They're humans.
Yes.
People do suck. I would let you know that I can see that makes.
I ordered myself some new glasses from this company called Kits.
Oh my God.
That makes you irate, like all those types of things. I could tell, like it's really bubbling inside of you, and those passions are really coming out. And I get that, because again, I'm not saying like the thing of like, oh, if I was a woman, because I don't understand it 100%. But realistically, those things you just said, I think would make me so mad, and I get why you would not want to do those types of things. I will let you know, first of all, like those things suck, and I don't agree with them. And a lot of the things, especially knowing the churches that you guys go to, I used to be part of Christ Community Church I go to now, things you go to, whatever, actually have differing views about all those things you just said, like tremendously differing views. And I literally work with women, and I don't worship them is the wrong word, but I swear, I'm like, please, I would rather you be my boss than any other man in the organization, please. Seriously, like there's a lot of women in the church who literally go to my church who I'd rather be literally the pastor over some of these guys that I know. Whether it's biblical or not, sure, but like I trust them with their heart for the Lord more so than I trust some of the other men who are at our specific church. And so some of the things you can bring up, like I don't believe it was Eve's fault. I believe it was Adam's fault. Yeah. I think that he was nearby. I think that not because he was the guy and should have said something. That's against putting women below. That's putting women below.
Yeah.
He was not just there. He was standing right beside her. Okay. It says she took a bite and she turned and gave it to Adam. He was right there listening to the whole conversation. I actually think if this story was true, Adam was trying to see what happened to her first. Like, oh, like the serpent is telling her some stuff. Like, let me see what happens to her when she bites. And then he was like, oh shit, now she got more knowledge than me? Let me take a bite too. Like, like I have a video on this platform. I don't remember if it was a live or a video, but I have like, Adam was the first incel. He wasn't the first man. He was the first incel. Think about it. He couldn't get with his first wife because his first wife wanted to be on top, you know, which I don't know why a man would have a problem with. Y'all swear y'all love when a woman on top, but right? But he didn't like it. So he got, and because she wouldn't, like, you know, Lilith wouldn't, you know, bow to him, she got kicked out. And then now he had to have this one made for him. And he's, you know what I mean? Like, I idiot man this, man. Sorry, like my Jamaican ancestry just jumped out of me. You know what I mean? Like I'm a first generation Canadian. My parents were from the island, but I idiot think that because you can't tell me that he didn't know what was going on. He was standing right there the whole damn time. He could have said no, exactly. He could have said, get away from me. I'm going to stand with my God who created me. He could have slapped that shit out her hand. Instead, he stood there, watched her take the bite, watched her eyes being open. And then when she handed it to him, he's like, well, damn, you didn't die. Let me take a bite too. I can't have this lady knowing more than me. And then, and all of a sudden she gets all of it. Even God, they were like, oh, he cursed both of them. No, he cursed her with more labor pain. Not that he gave her labor pain. The labor pain was always there because he said he increased her pain for labor, meaning that labor pains were already in the ball for us. And then he made the ground harder for him to till. Like nothing really happened to Adam. You know what I mean? So that stuff always irritates me.
Yeah.
But I think because he's a person that should have said, didn't God just tell you don't eat from that apple? Like, so I think he should have spoke up instead of said something in that case. I think that like a lot of the things that you brought up, I would reverse it and say, yeah, we definitely have been the problem throughout history, and we have definitely taught women the wrong things throughout history. Yeah. Now that's why I brought up the thing about like it could be more so men or people that rather than God. But obviously you said you had a problem against Yahweh, so
So then I have a question for you guys too. Like, as you say, like, you're Christian and your whole point is to bring heaven onto earth. How are you personally planning on, because like I love what you're saying and the aspect of like, you do see the struggle and the pain and the oppression that women have gone through. And I think that is amazing. So now that you're within that and you're men, because women have not been able to carry their voices throughout history because we're silent.
Yes.
What do you plan on doing to bring us as women to higher standards in the church when a lot of other men in the church are still putting us down? How do you decide to speak up against that?
For me, being in the church and me currently being in ministry in a nonprofit and also still working in the church, there are many times where I've literally told pastors, like, I would rather this person be in this position, even though you have chosen me, this person be in this position because they are more qualified, they are more spiritually informed, they know more about scripture, and I have no problem being the last.
Yeah.
By far, I have no problem telling someone that I think that actually women should have a choice to pursuing whatever they want to do with their bodies. I still believe against abortions and certain whatever, but I still believe in the fact that you do have a body.
Someone needs to tell them about that bitter waters. Again, they don't know their Bible. They got to talk about the bitter waters because God is okay with abortion, especially if your husband thinks that you've been cheating. You know, that's how they discovered it.
And you can do whatever you want to do with your body. Do I believe that's maybe the right way to go with it? Sure, maybe not. But I'm not going to go and tell you that that's not the way you should do that, whatever. Why? Because what is it going to help you with?
Another commercial.
Are you?
These commercials, I swear they know that I'm like, why are these commercials coming every 10 minutes? It's crazy. I feel like if I was watching this, not to say that I wouldn't get commercials, but this often, I don't know. But I mean, it's over now, so they're short at
You're
least.
gonna do it regardless. Like,
Yes.
what's it gonna help you with? In ministry right now, again, like I said, there's many women who I've literally advocated for to my CEO. Please put them in the positions of leadership because they should be in that specific position. So I think that I try my best to see that, and the more you say it, I want to keep doing it more because I do realize the importance of how women and men were meant to coexist together. And that it's not about you came from my rib and so you're whatever, but we believe in you being the helper. Actually, the reality, if you go back to the Greek word of it, we're like back, like reality, the word means that we're back to back. And so if someone is trying to attack on his side and someone's trying to attack on my side, you got my back, I got your back. Because women are coexisting with me.
Yes.
Women submitting to men in the Bible. Well, I believe that I should be submitted to my wife. 1000%.
I was just going to say that because so
100%.
many, from my experience, I've seen men love to say, oh, women should submit to men, but they don't look at the other part of that verse where it says men need to submit to the family.
Very clearly there.
Mhm.
100%.
So
I get that.
I don't know if I believe too much about it, what he's saying. I don't know if I believe that he actually goes to his CEO at his company and be like, you need to put women in this position. I don't believe it. I could be wrong. I just don't see give this woman the promotion over me. I don't believe him. I don't believe him. And that's not a worldwide perspective. I would love to see men develop charities and organizations that are for men who truly believe that and push that. Just not in your everyday personal life being like, hey, you're wrong. But like actually creating organizations to make systematic change. I swear I wish I could have been a fly on the wall because Adam would have heard my mouth. I know that's right. Has he actually done that? See, you don't believe him either. No, he hasn't advocated for any women. He's saying what he would do, but what has he actually done? They come on Beyonce's internet and lie. Absolutely. I'm telling you, me and you are the same because your comments came right after I said it. Exactly. I don't believe it. I do not believe him. I do not. And like I said, speaking out in your everyday life, just correcting men is like one thing. But if you're truly for the upliftment of women as a whole, you would see more men creating organizations by men for women to create that kind of space. And they don't, and you just don't see it. So, you know, as much as they say, oh, I would love to, it's like, I do think it's largely because men are afraid of other men. You know what I mean? They're their largest predator too. Like, yes, men are women's largest predator, but men are actually each other's largest predator. And I think a lot of men are afraid of other men and afraid to speak up in that way because they know that they will be, you know, crucified. You know, a lot of men didn't speak up for women. I mean, I can't think of anybody. The only person I can think of that I've really truly felt like spoke up for women is Malcolm X, you know, and I guess he was referring to Black women, but it's very true that Black women are the most undervalued. Like, you know, we're not only just based on our skin, but we're also oppressed because we are women. So there's that double oppression. And I can only think of him who really spoke against that. Everybody else was kind of okay with women being underneath them. Like a lot of men are okay wanting to remove the system of racism, but wanting to keep patriarchy just as it is. And a lot of that is due to their religious beliefs, which are usually Abrahamic, whether it is, you know, the Hebrew Israelites, you know, the Purple Power Rangers on the corners, or the Christians, or Islam, right? They all want to keep patriarchy just as it is because it serves them.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. Like it's very refreshing, and it's honestly extremely humbling to hear those words come, especially like growing up in the Midwest and like a primarily red state. Like you get the worst of every side that you're in, and like
The South is the same way.
yeah, and it's so, and like you said, like it's hard to have a conversation with people. So I do thank you. I do appreciate that, and I do respect that, and I do respect that you guys are using your voice, because like I said, like women have been fighting for this for so long that like we need the men to be our equals and help us fight for this as well too. So I do appreciate you in that.
And I'm speaking a lot. This last thing I'm gonna say, my wife is a doula. She's a birth doula. You know, she's a birth doula. And so I'm telling men, because another thing that I'm doing, like I'm telling men, you don't need to be a person who's sitting waiting in the waiting room. You need to be the advocate for her, to be the like you're empowering what she wants to her birth plan. And so like it's a matter of like, how can we elevate women instead of putting them down? Because we've been doing it for so long. There's men in the medical system who have been messing up women for years with the husband stitch. I don't know if you know much about the husband stitch. That's a ridiculous thing that men have been doing. But again, I don't want us to see that as overall Christianity more so than people suck.
I have a question for all of you guys. Just on the topic of like Christianity getting updated to modern terms, and it could just be a result of where I live in the US. Christianity as a religion, as opposed to, let's say, Islam. Christianity is expected much more so to update to modern times than a religion like Islam.
I think that that's not true. I think that people do want the update to Islam, but Islam is, in the West particularly, isn't, because the West is Christianized, you don't see it. Like, and again, the reason why the West is because the West was never intended to be religion, right? That's why even with your guys' constitution and even with Canadian doctrine and things like that, they wanted the separation of church and state, right? They weren't Christian men that came together and signed the Constitution. Like, it was to remove that aspect and give religious freedom. When you look at places like that are heavily Islam and even heavily Christian and don't have those rights, it's hard for them to speak up. Like, I just saw a protest in, where was it? Was it Lebanon? I can't remember where it was. It might have been Iran, but the women were there without their, without, I can't remember the name of their thing that they wear to cover their hair and things like that. And they were, it was a protest against it. You just don't hear about it and you just don't see it, and it's not promoted. And I think when people come as immigrants and they bring those stricter rules, like they still try to stone women who don't want to get married and things like that. Like, they're still owned as property, and it seems much worse, but it seems much worse because they come from places where it is so strict. The West was never supposed to be that strict. It was supposed to be the difference. It was supposed to be the place where you go from freedom, where you go to remove yourself from persecution. But over the years, as Christianity has taken up a hold of majority of this side of the world, you can see that that's why they're dialing back and changing things. She's giving them cookies for unproven actions. Sir, where's the proof of your words? Absolutely. And him saying his wife is a doula and stuff, so maybe he does know about a little something, but the way that he's saying he stepped up, and like I said, like it's not in a large way. It's more in a way of like an individual way. With I don't mind, like I get it, like in your day-to-day life you try to be the best version of yourself and you try to stick up for women. But if you're talking about the hijab, thank you. If you're talking about as a whole and as a community, like, does your church have a community that or organization that helps uplift women? I'm willing to say that that's likely not true. Taylor says, yes, and hijab women always look fire. Yes, it's true. They are modernizing and having entrepreneurship, starting huge makeup companies, etc. It just looks a little different than the way Christians do it. Absolutely, that's right, exactly. So, I feel like they have this like archaic view of Islam and like, oh, they're not doing the same things we are. Christian women aren't fighting, like Islamic women aren't fighting for the same things that Christian women are and things like that. But that's further from the truth. They just don't allow it to be seen. They don't project it, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Taylor. They are fighting in their own ways and pushing the standards and modernizing in their own ways. And again, there's a big pushback, but I wouldn't say that, oh, Christians are the only one who are letting women do it. Absolutely not, especially because, like, again, you're looking from a westernized perspective. In other places where Christianity is practiced, that couldn't be further from the truth for the women that live there.
What do you guys think the reason is that Christianity is the one asking to be brought up to speed? Or when it's Islam, a large majority view is like, oh, that's their thing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael.
See, another commercial. Like, I'm telling you, this is so weird.
And it's very disrespectful to ask them to change anything about it. Now, am I offbeat, or do you guys notice that, or what do you think Christianity?
I'd say offbeat a little bit. Me speaking from my Middle Eastern background, I know of certain Islam women that I'm sure you guys know in Islam you're allowed to have up to 3 wives, but you have to take care of all those wives. You don't just get to have your fun. You have to actually treat them as an equal wife, like you would your first, your second, your third. And so a lot of women do want that to go away with, because going back to the issue of, well, you're not treating me like an equal. You're not living up to what God says you should be doing as a husband. So I wouldn't say it's just Christianity that needs updated. I would say multiple religions need updated.
I agree with that statement 100%. And it goes back to the treatment of women.
It started because you were supposed to like say your wife's friend's husband died, you would take her in because you wanted to take care of her. That's where it came from, not, oh, how many sons can I have? Yeah, it was never meant to be that. So
I've had a bad experience with church. As always, we'll start by bringing up the agreeing side now.
Let me just go and clarify, like, the majority of the experience has been awesome, because once again, I believe that I'm saved by grace. A lot of my upbringing and a lot of my even college days was just filled with arguing about things that just do not matter. And so that was one thing that was just kind of hard going through.
I think one bad experience I had with the church was with
Sorry, I just wanted you guys to see who came forward, because she came by herself, and then the 2 white boys came forward. The Mediterranean girl is back there, and the black man is back there. So they are probably going to come forward later to give their experiences.
suicide, and essentially looking at me dead in the eyes and telling me if I killed myself, I was going to go to hell. And as somebody on the verge of themselves, I definitely felt very welcome and alive and well, at that moment, essentially knowing that my end is also going to be more damnation. So that's probably my number one worst experience with the church, was having the pastor and his helpers tell me that.
I'm really sorry that.
Yeah, and it's just that's I guess one thing that I guess another really big thing that I've struggled with religion is I just don't understand how you can have a God that plans your life out and then have you in so much pain, and then also want you to suffer in hell for the rest of your afterlife because you yourself. So yeah, that's rough.
Majority had very good experiences. That's probably due fact that I didn't really grow up in the church, so I haven't been in the church that long, to be honest. But I guess I just walked up here because I still have still seen things I don't like. I've still been hurt in some ways. I've seen drama, which just really annoys me within the church, because we're all believe in the same God, we love the same God, and sometimes it feels like we're no different than the rest of the world. I've had like subtle bad experiences. Like I feel like the church it's not like a perfect place. It's a place full of sinners, just like the rest of the world. And so naturally, I've had some bad experiences.
You mentioned arguing about things that didn't matter. You said subtle things that you noticed. Where there's like, could you guys, if you're comfortable, maybe hone in more on what specifically that was?
In college, a lot of Christians that I were friends with would teach people, like God wants you to be happy. He wants you to pretty much be happy all the time. And if you're not happy, then something's wrong with you, right? And then also on top of that, if you have mental health problems, like that means that you're not having enough faith. And if you don't have enough faith, then God's looking at you less than, because there's all these other Christians that have nothing wrong with them. So like, why can't you be more like them? Because they have all the faith in the world, but you don't have faith, right? So that was ingrained in a lot of like what I believed in college. And then eventually, like I woke up and realized that Christ wants me exactly how I am. My salvation is not based off of my mental health. My salvation is based off of.
They believe in Paul, not Jesus. Like they believe in Paul. That's Paul talking. That's Paul that told you that. Jesus was not saying that. The disciples that walked with him, like John, never believed that. Like I said, there was the whole argument that John and Paul had about whether faith without works was necessary. Paul said, you only need faith. John was like, nah, you got to do the work. You know what I mean? And it goes through that again, like, like I could just sin over and over again. Whereas again, there's a lot of doctrine in the Bible that says, no, if you have the fruit of the Spirit, if you have the Holy Spirit, it will change you. You will be able to do these things. Even Jesus said, if you believe in me, anything you ask of me, I will give it. Right. And then we ask them for things and you're still waiting and you make an excuse for that. It's crazy to me, like how they separate those things. And if you were to mention these things, they automatically have some sort of apologetic about it, right? Like apparently, not apparently, according to Jesus, you should be able to get bit by a venomous snake and not die. You should be able to cast out demons. You should be able to heal the sick. Yet I don't see any Christians going to these hospitals healing people that are just miraculously, right? And if you ask them to do it, they're like, I can't test God. And it was like, what do you mean? Like literally, like I said, Jesus said, anything you ask of me in my name, I shall give. So it's weird because like in their subconscious, they know they're full of shit is what I think. I think they know they're full of shit. My first church experience was an exorcism. I'm glad to a freeman. Let me know when your bill collector takes faith as payments. Absolutely, right? Why are they not doing the miracles? Exactly. It says that they should be able to do all these things, and none of them can do it. And then they just, again, make some type of apologetic about why that is. And it's insane to me. Like, it's just, I really do think that a lot of them just do it to make themselves feel better. They have to feel like somebody is forgiving them for whatever guilt that they're carrying with them. I was like, therapy does wonders, y'all. Like, and not Christian therapy, like just regular therapy. Find some other, like I don't know. I just feel like, again, it's harmful. Like even with the whole, wanting to unalive yourself, that is, like this whole idea that it's, a sin and whatever. But you know how many Christians are actually struggling and battling with that, like, and people are just telling them to simply pray about it when they need actual real help, that comes from outside of praying to a deity and actually takes some real work, that actually really takes some real reflection. But with church, you get to deflect from your trauma. You get to give it to God. And I'm not dealing with that, but really and truly, it's still with you. It's still inside of you. It still haunts you, and I don't know. I think this is the perspective that is so harmful about religion. These religions anyways.
Of choosing Christ and Christ alone.
Okay. And how did during the times when, if you're not happy, well, you're not really living up to it, how did that make you feel?
Yeah. I also at the time was dealing with suicide as well.
Glad you're here.
And
glad you're here.
Yeah. Really, just really, really tough, honestly. I don't really have any other words to put it. Just didn't make you feel great. And so.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
You smiled today. That's good. How about you?
Like, even though I'm sitting in front of some cameras right now, I'm not outgoing really naturally. I'm not the kind of person that like easily like, you know, has small talk or walks up to people. And so it hurts when, you know, people don't walk up to me, or when I like, you know, I see everyone else enjoying the friend groups, but I don't really, I kind of feel alone even though I'm around so many people, or I'm able to like walk out the church without anybody noticing. And so I'm kind of like hurt, like I've experienced hurt in that regard.
I think it's just an all around thing. Is we come back to all of these different things, and it's like, I feel like people ruin a lot of things just based on what I'm hearing. Like,
Again, with this people, like, please read the book. Oh my gosh, I got a super chat. I think that's like my second one. Thank you. I need to go live more often too. That's another reason, but thank you. And it said, did you just send $10 or did it say anything? Oh, Truth. Thank you so much, Thriver Scapegoat. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for the $10. Then there's some other one. That's cult speak for it's your fault and lack of faith. Absolutely. And honestly, most of these religions are in fact cults. Like, you know what I mean? When you look at the cults, like if you were to read it to them and they're like, oh, does this happen in your church? They'll say yes. Just don't tell them you're reading from like the list of like how to know you're in a cult. A lot of them will say yes to a lot of the answers. And then when you let them know, they get so defended. I've done that a couple of times. It's gotten me in trouble, but I don't care. I'm always gonna push back. They want a state-sanctioned violence and get absolution. Absolutely. Suffering Olympics. Who can turn the most cheeks? Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Like, it's, you know, there's things out there, but people add their own spin. In your case, people using an ideology to make you feel a certain way. So with all of that being said, I'd like to bring up the disagreeing side.
If your resume looks like this, you're not getting hired. This layout.
I'm telling you, like there's so many commercials. I swear if I wasn't live, there wouldn't be this many commercials.
I guess I can say that I'm fortunate enough. My home church, I came from a very small town. Everyone who went to my church were the same kids in my school. Like, it was very family oriented. I was raised Lutheran, so I'm very lucky to have been in a branch of Christianity that has already been known for being very accepting. I want to say it was back in 2008. They set out a statement that they were okay with the gay marriage. Like, it just seems like the Lutheran Church has always been like one step ahead of being politically correct, I guess is the word for it. Even if I were to go home to my home church today, I would be welcomed with open arms. Like, people would remember me. It's, yeah. So I'm sorry that you guys all had such terrible experiences. And even as Christians, that you can say like, yeah, I have had a bad time in the church. I wasn't expecting you guys to walk up, so I'm sorry for that.
I can say that even me, like, I didn't really have any bad things happen in the church to me. Like, I witnessed certain things happen to other people that I didn't like, but me, like, as a child growing up in church, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, my mom didn't have to force me to go. I was ready, like I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I was ready and up on a Saturday morning, doing my hair, getting dressed, getting ready to go to church. I loved being in choir. They had a thing called Pathfinders, which is like a Christian Girl Scout, Boy Scout thing. I was in that. I liked it. I liked seeing my friends and doing all the activities and just being a part of the church community. It was when I was older, like I think in my teen years when my mom got remarried, her husband was like the kind of Christian that I just was like, that I'm still disgusted with till this day. She's not married to him anymore. But, you know, he put a bitter taste in my mouth and started like making me question what Christianity was about, especially because he was seen like he would preach in church all the time. He was not a pastor. He kind of like worked his way up and became like head of like this small church that we were going, like a smaller church, and would go to other churches and preach and things like that. Even though he wasn't technically like educated in the ministry like that, he just kind of like worked his way through. And he put a bitter taste in my mouth. That's when I started like looking at certain things, the rules and the indoctrination, and being like, this doesn't align. I don't like how they treat women. I don't like how he talked to my mom, because my mom and my dad weren't together from when I was like 3, right? I had 2 older siblings. they kind of grew up with them, but I didn't really grow up with my dad in the home like that. So this was the first man in the home experience I kind of had, and he was Christian. My dad is not really Christian either. My mom's always been super Christian, but my dad was not. He just likes to date Christian women. I think it's because he likes this. He likes the benefit of like the Christian women subservience, like, you know, being subservient and submissive, but he doesn't want to be a Christian himself. But anyways, that's another story. But, but, you know, so even my dad is not very Christian mindset, even now. Like, he understands my perspective way more. Whereas my mom, you know, she's kind of like just praying for me to like come back, you know? So he was my first interaction with like a Christian man in the household and how he operated and what he expected of my mom. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I wasn't used to seeing my mom be this submissive version of a woman, because to me, she was always independent. She was in school. She got her education, you know, growing up after she left my dad. That's what the things that she pursued. So I had no idea of who this woman was. And I was always like baffled at how much she changed when she married this man, because of what she felt the church was telling her that she was required to do as a wife to this man. And that's what kind of started it. But I've never had any personal bad experiences, like bad things happening to me at church and in church and all that stuff. So even me, like, I'm one of those people that when it, like, that's why people are like, oh, you have church hurt. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, me leaving Christianity had like literally nothing to do with like the church hurting me. When I finally left, it was the ties that I made to the Christian church, to slavery, and knowing that that's how my ancestors became Christian, and then kind of digging through that in that lens, you know what I mean? That's what led me away. So the whole like church hurt thing always annoys me, because it's like, why do you assume that like, that there's no other way somebody could turn away from Christ? And even so, if that's the case, that there's like this huge body of people that are leaving because of church hurt, like, think about that. Like, clearly y'all aren't doing something right. You know what I mean? But I'm going to let it continue.
Church is ran by humans. And so we're bound to have people who are going to get hurt by other humans. I am same situation. Like, I grew up having a great experience with churches, and I've been to a lot of different denominations and been a part of those. Went to a Christian college, came here to be a part of a master's degree at a church, like now going to a different church. I've had so many different churches to work with. They've all been great to me. However, even though I am an African-American minority, I am a minority to the world. I'm not in your shoes being the minority. And so I haven't experienced some of the things that you might have experienced. Crazily, even being a minority in all white churches, most of the time, I get seen as more of a token less than put down, you know what I'm saying? Whether you believe that's good or not, I mean, it's never been bad for me. I mean, it gives me a way to be able to speak and use my voice. And so I've always seen it as a church has usually been decent in my experience.
And I hope it's okay that I asked this, but
100%.
even as like you said, the token black man, you don't see that as like a bad experience within the church? I never seen it as a bad experience. I can get why it could be seen that way. I see it as a good experience because it allows me to use something that they would have used as they deem as that usually would be seen as bad, for me to be able to use my voice. And so in those same environments, like at my
hold on, Park is making. I tell you, they're so fucking funny. I thank you again. Thriver Scapegoat. Me either. No church hurt, but the history, what I saw, and I knew so many people in different religions. Yeah, tokens get spent, bro. I'm telling you, like, he's kind of like, I'm like, I mean, if I went to a church and they looked at me as some token, that wouldn't be a church that I would be wanting to, like, exactly, so cringy. Like, that made me cringe. I was like, yo, are you really saying that? Like, that is not cute, bro. You should have kept that one in the vault. You did not have to tell the world that.
My college, I was one of the 50 African Americans out of 600, 700 people at a Christian college, like all white college, basically. Like, they used me as a token. I mean, I was on a billboard my second month of being a freshman in college. Like, I was for sure the token black guy. I ended up being the first chaplain at my school. I was able to speak. They allowed me to speak about African American topics, ethnocentric realities, about.
They allowed me to speak. They allowed me. It's just crazy.
Racism in ways that I would have never had the platform to speak about. if they did not see me as a token. So even if it was bad, I do believe that God used it for good. And I was able to speak out about things that were helpful.
It's almost like you're reclaiming that power back into
Oh, for
yourself.
sure.
And like, that's
I mean,
really powerful and beautiful. Like,
yeah.
and that's, yeah.
And nothing I did. I just existed. It just shows me. You're the guy. Yeah.
You look photogenic.
Yeah.
I've questioned what I believe is true. Start by bringing up the agreeing side now.
If you want to have a job.
Telling you, these commercials are crazy. They all came forward.
When it comes to questioning, I mean, a huge truth like this, is there anybody that's questioned it a lot, questioned it on end, or anybody wants to start?
I've definitely questioned, and that's been a huge part of my story, my faith journey. Once again, like going through high school, just studying all these different religions, I'm like, all right, is this true, or is this true, or is this true? And I think it's honestly healthy to question as well. I think that if you have this like solid, definite, like, no, like absolutely, like even God himself in scripture says like, it's okay to bring your questions to me, you know? And I think that any church or any belief statement that says that it's not okay to question, that's just straight up a cult. You know what I mean? And so I think that groups that call themselves Christians that say like, hey, like, you know, you can't question if this is true. Like, you need to run away from that.
What I find is that most churches will allow you to question to a certain extent, but not fully question. Like, especially if they don't have the answer or they can't explain or anything like that, they just shut you down and shut you out and deem you as a, like, you know, like demonic or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? As much as he says that he's clearly still Christian, I don't believe any of them have really pushed too far back as far as the Christians go, like on it. I know like that one kid said he was atheist, but I don't think he was searching for the truth. Again, I don't know how you end up there if you were really looking. But then again, he said he looked at just different Christianities and chose the Christianity that best suited him. 9 layers of embarrassment, absolutely. And how has your token status helped anybody? It ain't had done a damn thing for anybody. Paul Little Ting has questions. Yep.
From that very, very fast. You know, when Jesus comes back from the dead, you see a picture where doubt is in the Bible. And it is honestly one of the most beautiful pictures that honestly was a huge encouragement to me when I was becoming a Christian. And it's this picture where Thomas comes to Jesus, and he's probably the biggest doubter of all of the disciples. And he says, Jesus, unless I see the holes in your feet and the holes in your hands, I will not believe. Jesus does it, and he shows them, right? And so I think that
you know what else Jesus said, y'all? Jesus said, he looked around to the crowd and he said, some of you here will see the day that I come and return. Where are they? It's been 2,000 years. It's been how many thousands of years? Where are they alive? Are they still alive? Like, come on. Come on. But, and he showed him. We have no proof of that. Even these collections that like Paul said that he took, he came like 80 years, a century after Jesus, right? Paul never, like when they say Paul was a disciple, he was not like a direct disciple of Jesus. He came later after crucifying Christians himself. And he took these witness statements from people who had like, it's been like 50, 80 years for them. Like their witness statements aren't even credible. You know what I mean? Like it's like, come on. Yes, he chose Christianity like people choose between ham, bacon, and pepperoni. Exactly.
That doubt isn't only healthy, but I think it's also biblical as well.
I've seen a lot of mainly fundamentalist Christians say like to have blind faith, which is like true to an extent, but also they'll sometimes say like, I've just heard that like they say like it's almost wrong to question or doubt. And then they'll usually say things along the lines of, well, I don't need evidence for what I believe because I've seen what God has done in my life. And I've always thought that was really like silly and paradoxical because you're saying your evidence is you've seen what God has done. You have your evidence. But so like somebody like me.
And it's never real evidence. It's always some virtual thing. Like, how come God can answer you about getting a car, getting a job, getting a mortgage, which isn't like really giving you a house because you're paying and you have to work hard to pay that mortgage. But anyways, you know what I mean? But he can never answer the prayers to heal someone or to feed the starving. Like I said, 25,000 children die in a day from starvation. If I were to pray with my heart's content, Christian or not, it wouldn't change. You know what I mean? If I were to pray for every child in the children's hospital to be healed, right? Because I think we can all agree children are not deserving of these things happening. These babies that are born with these illnesses, and people are like, oh, it's the parents, like, you know what I mean? But like, I hate that shit when they say stupid shit like that, because it's just like, it's just not true. It's definitely not fair. And Paul was a grifter, absolutely. And it's crazy to me that they, again, a lot of them really do not read this book as much as they said, oh, I've read it. No, you have not. Even that one guy, he only read the New Testament. Like, how can you say you've truly, like, I don't know how you and I can understand, because again, I was born into it. And I even said the other day, one of the things that really tripped me up was that I hadn't realized that I really didn't read the Bible until much later, when I started reading it now. And that was because I was given like a study guide for my Bible, right? Like, I would do my studies, but it was always through the lens of the church, that, you know what I mean? Like, the study guide was from the church, how they wanted me to receive the word of God, how they wanted me to learn about God, not actually sitting down reading it like word for word, bar for bar, you know what I mean? And like really looking at it with a critical mind and thinking, does this really make sense? Could this actually be true? You know? So it is what it is, though.
Me, like, who's like, I came from atheist to being a Christian, so blank slate. I haven't seen what God has done in my life really quite yet. Like, I needed reasons to believe. I even think of like Jesus pulling Peter out the water when he has a lack of faith, and God does a lot with that. And I promise you, he's done a lot with it in my faith. I went from atheist to also wanting to pursue ministry, and it was along with all those doubts. I mean, like, looking into other religions like Islam, there was a really stark difference, honestly. Like, you know, Islam talks about Muhammad going on, you know, the mountain and having his flight in heaven, and he comes back with the Quran, basically. And I might be oversimplifying it. I'm not super well versed, but I know that it's almost like, dude, trust me, is what Muhammad gave everybody. Whereas with the Bible, you have, as I said, like thousands of years of manuscript history where we can study it and we can compare it to how we have it now. Actual eyewitness accounts, which is what the Gospels are. They're like eyewitness accounts that all have like their own agenda to them. So it's really neat when you really study. Like,
it's really neat. I'm sorry. He's this young white man. He's so green. He's so naive. It's almost sweet. Like, it's really neat. I don't mean, oh my gosh, so naive, so young. You know what I mean? That's eyewitness accounts. I already just spoke on that, so I'm not going to touch that. Next bill I pay, I'll just write God got it and send them a picture of Jesus in the mail. If they call me about missing payments, I'll say God works in mysterious ways. Absolutely. Shake my head. Eyewitness accounts, my ass. Absolutely. When the late fees back up, I'll say no weapon formed against me shall prosper. You're going to get your bills cut off. You're going to have no heat, no water. You're not going to have a phone. You better stop.
Like all the
oh my
Gospels.
Gosh, I'm teared up.
like Matthew is written specifically to like a Jewish audience. So it's very Jewish compared to the other ones, which are written to like a Roman audience. You have also the apostles willing to die for something that they believe in. Like, not a lot of people would die for something they know is a lie, is what I've heard. Like, if you know it's a lie, you're not going to gain anything of it.
That is the biggest lie ever. People have died for lies. People in Islam, even that sacrifice themselves for the belief that when they get to heaven, they'll get so many virgins for their sacrifice. People have died on the basis of lies all the time. Even the people that died in the name of Christianity died over lies. Like, so I'm saying, he's so young though. Like, look at him. Like, still acne on his face and everything. Like, look at this kid. Like, he's still a youngin'. He can't be. I would be surprised if he was over 25. Like, he's so naive. It's so naive. I'm sorry, young man. Sorry to this man. I'll be a millionaire by the time Jesus comes back. Absolutely, you will.
When your life is at stake, you're probably going to say, okay, never mind, it's not worth it. But the disciples followed it till their death. So they obviously believed it. That doesn't answer whether it's true, but that at least, I think, answers whether they're lying or not. To anybody who might have doubts, like wrestle with those, just as Jacob wrestled with God.
Yes.
He will be there for you, you know, as he says, like, knock, like, seek me and you will find me, you know. I think it's really true.
Jesus! Jesus! Yeah. Think call waiting? You know, do you think Jesus has call waiting? Give it a minute. I tried. I tried.
Well, since leaving Christianity, right? What you believe now. Have you ever questioned what you believe now?
Oh.
Another commercial.
There are 3 things that are fine is out of alignment.
Oh, 100%.
Like almost every day.
Mhm.
Because any day you can come out with new information, you know. They could find a new scroll and be like, oh, like everything in the Bible is 100% true. You know, we never fully know. We're just not allowed to know. It's not what we're meant to know on this plane. And then when we do finally figure it out, it's not like I can come back down and be like, hey, hey, there it is. So
I think for me personally, like, I really started questioning my religion very, very young. Like, I was probably 3rd or 4th grade, going from like extreme Christianity and then being told that like everything else outside of Christianity is like demonic. Like, yeah, I definitely questioned it because it was every move that I made, anything that like I researched, I was always so scared. I was like, I'm going to go to hell. Like, I'm on the path of the devil. Like, Satan's tempting me. And then it's just like years of education and research and hearing from other people who have walked the similar path of me. It's like, okay, so like this isn't actually dark. This isn't actually demonic. This isn't actually satanic. Like, those are completely different. Even today still though, like I still question it. I still question everything. I don't think you're, like you guys said, like if you're not questioning, you're not learning, you're not educating, you're not growing. And so it's almost naive of you to not be questioning what you believe in, because you would be in an occult at that point.
And not questioning things has like led to dangerous situations throughout all of history.
Like I said earlier, that cult mentality of like, don't question it.
We need people like you in Christianity coming out and taking a leap forward and saying, no, I did question it and this is not what I agree with. So let's make a new chapter and make it more accepting. And we need people like us questioning it and bringing open that chapter of, hey, like you don't have to just conform to what the typical like Abrahamic religions are at the same time.
I would say that there's a stark difference between questioning and doubting. I do think that questioning can lead to doubt, but I don't think that all questioning, or most even questioning, is doubt realistically. I think that it's just us as humans being curious about what the things that we believe in. Again, like I said, even during the break, we're just trying to figure out the world. Like realistically, like we want to find fulfillment, and I feel like I found a sense of purpose. But even then, it took me questioning to figure that out. I'm not when I question if God is of the Old Testament or is the same as the God of the New Testament. I'm not doubting that God exists. I'm not doubting that God is the same God. I'm just questioning because I'm curious. I want to make sure what I believe is what I believe. I say this thing all the time. It's like I have hopeful. I just said it to you. Have hopeful assurance that I am choosing the right religion.
Yeah.
Can I guarantee without a shadow of a doubt that I am choosing the right religion? Not all days. Does it mean that I'm doubting that God? No, it doesn't mean that. I'm just questioning. I'm just trying to figure things out, and I think that's okay. I think that's healthy. I do think that doubt can start going on the verge of start to be a little more like
deconstructed.
Yeah, so kind of walking away. I do want to ask you a question. You talked a little more about how you'd question Christianity. What makes you question?
It's almost done, but I did want to say, like, yeah, like he's like, I don't know. They're the way they ping pong. I don't know. Jesus don't have Wi-Fi. You gotta call collect to get him on. Is that what I need to do? Because I don't think he'd want to pay. Like, I feel like he'd be like, I ain't like, you know what I mean? Like he's not accepting that bill. Are you sure? Yes, purpose as a token have several seats. Yeah, I know. Like, sir. Okay, my dog's getting really impatient. Don't worry, it's almost over. Give me 5 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes.
In paganism, you said that yes, you do. So what way up?
I think with paganism, like the thing that makes me question it is like, especially now, and like I say this with utmost like respect, is I think it's become like a huge trend now, and it's very like, for me, I question it because it's what I'm doing okay, because I don't ever want to disrespect the deities that I'm working with. I never want to disrespect that culture. I don't want to disrespect the people who laid that pathway for me to learn about that religion. So for me, I think the biggest thing is questioning like my intentions into it, because like for like me personally, what I believe, it's all your intentions. You have the good intentions, you're going to get good out of it. If you have bad intentions, you're going to get bad out of it. So like questioning and ensuring that like what I'm doing is purely with like good, pure, wholehearted intentions, and not allowing my biases, my judgment, like all of my personal stuff within myself reflecting out on it would be, I think, what I would question it the most.
All right. I think that's good. I think that's a wrap. This has been another episode of Counterpoint. If you like what you saw, let us.
Okay, so that was the end of the video. I think it's fun. I always think it's funny, especially like as white girls, they're like, oh, I want to respect the cultures and things like that. I really hope she's not praying to like certain like Oshun and working with all these other deities. Like, stick with your Wiccan deities, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying these westernized African gods are real, but if they are, you shouldn't be trying to mess with them without you doing the proper process of being accepted into it. Yeah, you might find yourself in trouble from what I heard. But again, just because you said like different cultures and stuff, like some people just take it too far. They go and try to like, and you know, there's all these trickster spirits they say, and I don't necessarily believe in that stuff either. You know, there was a point where I did as well, but right now I'm just, again, searching for truth. None of it seems true. None of it's true. None of it's true. They lied. Sorry, do you guys know that Michael Jackson clip? It's made up. That's what it's giving. It's just on the fact that if there is any deity that is super powerful and could stop what's going on and loves us, even if it's for whatever people, I don't see them fighting for anybody really that I know of. You know what I mean? Again, outside of like a personal basis or level. Like, I don't understand why God needs blood to be able to work in your life, or need some sort of sacrifice and things like that. You know what I mean? Why do they need that? And is that really a God? Or, you know what I mean? Like, but this is not about that. I think the conversation was actually pretty decent. They seemed really respectful of each other. It was a respectful conversation. I do wish that they had these kind of like conversations with people who have like a bit more education. But again, I'm not sure if it's like they can't find those people. Maybe those people don't want to join these kind of type things where they talk about these discussions. I don't know. Right? These people need to spend a few seasons doing farm work. Then they'll have real appreciation for earth and purpose. Your sage sticks won't cut it if embodied experience. That's true. It was all a lie. It was all a lie. None of it's true. None of it's true. They lied. They made it up. You know, I used to have that clip so that I could play it, but StreamYard took that away and put it with the paid program. And I ain't got StreamYard money. They ask for a lot of money a month and even a year. I ain't got it like that. You know what I mean? So I missed that one because I would have played it right there. None of it's true. None of it's true. No, it's a lie. They lied. They made it up. But yeah, y'all, that goes for that. It's been 3 hours. Thank you for those who stuck with me all the way, those who came in, those who watched in the replay. Love you guys so much. Again, thank you so much to the person who gave me the super sticker or the super chat. That was really appreciated. You guys don't have to do that, but it definitely supports the channel. I am trying to think of what I want to talk about for this Sunday's service. I got to go through what I've done and what I still want to do. It was a good time. Thank you guys for being here for the Sunday Live. You know, the Christian God is evil, ... Did I ever do slavery? I don't know if I ever did slavery. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what topic I should do. Or maybe if I can't find a topic, I could do a panel. Remember how I was talking to you guys about like maybe doing a panel where people can come up. Maybe I'll just do the Christian God is evil. Come up and tell me why I'm wrong or something. And then, you know, not just Christians can come up, but even people who don't believe, and they could tell me why I'm right. You know what I mean? Or something like that. I don't know. But it's on my mind. I'll definitely I'm going to try by tomorrow evening. Panel would be good. Okay. All right. You know, if you guys said, I know, High Frequency said, if I'm not mistaken, it was you who said you would come up, right? Like, you won't leave me out here alone, y'all. Okay. And I'll leave the chat open for even non-Christians to be able to talk. You know what I mean? Like, and go back and forth. Like these kind of lives, I don't want to go back and forth with anybody because it will distract from the conversation and the commentary. But for panels, it'll be open and they'll be able to come and talk their shit and try to tell me why I'm wrong and, you know, tell y'all I'm a demon and to not listen to me and all that good stuff. So, yeah, okay, perfect. So the two of you, Sunday afternoon, maybe. Let me know. I'll actually put a post. I'll make like a little thing and I'll make a post. I'll get it up by tomorrow evening. And you guys, what I'll do is I'll do a vote for like timing. I think Sunday afternoon would be best, maybe, or maybe early Sunday evening, because everybody has like, you know, work the next day, you know, or something like that. But you guys can vote, so just take a look out for that. But again, thank you guys for being here. My dog is like grunting at me. I don't know if you heard, but like she's so annoyed with me. She wants her food. She wants her dinner. And she wants me to take her for a walk. So she's staring at me like you know, the dog stare, like, you know, and it's been like that for the last 30 minutes. She's been staring at me. So I love y'all. We'll talk soon. Look out for that post. And I guess I'll see you guys Sunday. And look out for it because I will be posting videos. So I think I'm going to do at least 2 recorded videos. So look out for that as well. Talk to you later, guys. Thank you for coming through.